welcome if you're just getting here. We're celebrating National Black Business Month. Brought to you by our good friends at Salesforce, Black Enterprise, and Deloitte Digital. My name is DJ Dama. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C. And in just a few seconds, my girl Gia Peppers is going to hop in. We got some amazing talks, performances, and so much more.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Was built upon exclusions and erasures of indigenous peoples. This calls us to commit to the statement, the trail to equality for all starts with transparency, education, inclusive dialogue, action, community building, and an unbreakable commitment to making the world a better place. To learn more about the native land in your local area, visit nativeland.ca to learn more about what you can do to honor the people in your own community. To kick us off, we have a special performance by poet and content creator Lene Vanee, who you guys might know from her powerful parking lot segments where she keeps it black but always keeps it brief. We have a dynamic conversation lined up for you guys that celebrates Black culture, Black business, and it continues to highlight the ways Black entrepreneurs are tapping into the community and how we're using technology to reclaim what's ours. Here to discuss the Black business of Black culture is John Moore, Dr. Kerry Wilson, and Ryan.
What's up? It's Friday, so I'm gonna keep it black, but I'm gonna keep it brief. So in honor of National Black Business Month, I think it's so important to discuss why and how we should continue to support Black businesses. Increasing the wealth and buying power of Black people, both figuratively and literally, has been a priority since the end of slavery because of the tragically apparent wealth gap between white people and everybody else. You do realize that in 1865, white folk had some kind of money, even the poor ones. The majority was middle class, a good batch were rich, and a few of the girls even had millions. But 99.9999999% of Black people started out with zero. Goodness gracious. And hell, some of them even started with -0, in debt to white landowners by way of sharecropping, tenant farming, debt peonage, and in most cases losing more money than they earned. And that's only 156 years ago. Your granddaddy's granddaddy, if you will. Booker T. Washington was one of the earliest leaders to champion Black entrepreneurship as a remedy to this very issue. His plan for the new Negro was to embrace their industrious nature, to use their hands and take up a craft where they could work for themselves, accommodate the white folk, and embrace segregation. Hey, he grew up in the Deep South where racial violence was a big thing, so cut him some slack. But regardless of much criticism, Washington's work influenced yet another heavy hitter. A man whose platform was very big on increasing the power of the Black dollar, Mr. Marcus Garvey. Now, many folks know Marcus Garvey for his ardent Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, but this Jamaican immigrant had plans for us. He developed a company called the Black Star Line, which is popularized for the fleet of ships he intended to build to take Black people back to Africa. But the company's main purpose was to engage and connect Black merchants from around the world to increase the power of the Black dollar and Black markets globally. Wow! You mean back in 1920? Yes, girl! That is so nice. Whatever happened to him? jail time for mail fraud and then deportation, but chill on him. The point is, these early visionaries had the major key. And while Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington might have had great visions, they did not have the necessary resources. And 156 years later, we are still lacking resources. And the economic stability and security of Black Americans is key to building more racial equity. And I just think it's funny how Black people are often criticized for how we spend our money, which I get it. But when the healthcare that should be free is always eating at my savings account. When savings accounts seem like a luxury when my wages get ate up by rent and utilities on the first of the month. Oh Lord, here she go. When my education is affected because the teachers in my county are paid scraps because the property taxes are so low because y'all don't want to fix my road. Talk to them. When I gotta shell out hundreds of dollars every time I go get an oil change because I couldn't afford a new car, so I gotta deal with old car problems. With a little perspective, I think we can reevaluate those criticisms. But in this current climate, we have a unique opportunity. More people of all races are paying attention to Black businesses, buying Black and investing. I mean, girl, I be trying to support them, but you know how they be sometimes. It be giving unprofessional, slow service, poor management and infrastructure. The quality be lacking and the prices be too high. The price is too high, or are you just looking for the hookup? My chest. But look, I ain't even gonna cap. Many of us within the community have had difficulty sustaining our support for Black-owned businesses. However, there are so many different ways that we, allies, and larger corporations can support Black businesses to directly target the issues that keep them from thriving long-term. For one thing, many of the businesses that you see close down after a year or two don't close down because of lack of customers, but maybe because of lack of financial capital to sustain rough periods, unexpected expenses, and, pandemics. So invest. For two, some businesses fail from within due to lack of familiarity with organizational and management skills. Because many Black entrepreneurs lack particular education and work experience and don't know the ins and outs of business in the first place. So offer training programs and or apprenticeships. Three, some people have a great idea but just can't put it together. So design outreach programs. Bring your idea labs to us and stop making us jump through hoops to get to you. Oh, what was that? I thought somebody with another excuse for why not to buy Black without a solution said something.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all. My name is John Moore, Director of Global Public Sector Marketing here at Salesforce, and I'm so pleased to be able to bring you this portion of our first ever National Black Business Month block party. In this session, we're talking about the business of Black culture. And if you didn't know it, we're here to enlighten you today. Black culture is big business. And listen, of course, I am biased, and most of us here on the line probably are as well. But if we're being honest, it has to go without saying that Black culture has informed just about every aspect of our lives. And that's not just music, entertainment, and sports. That's science, that's technology, that's fashion, that's art, that's beauty, that's social justice and human rights and how we show up in those spaces and how we're having those conversations. So the collective power of Black ingenuity is present there. Our fingerprints are all over it. But while Black culture has been a driving force behind countless viral moments and has informed the cool and continues to inform the cool of our social constructs and fuel so many of the nation's wealthiest businesses, Black people have been largely, and it can be argued intentionally, excluded from the wealth that's being generated from the monetization of that creativity. So we find ourselves relegated. This is the way I think about it, is we find ourselves relegated to being creators and consumers. We do those two things really, really well. But then somewhere in the middle of that creative supply chain, we are not properly being represented in the ranks of those who are serving as the curators of our cultural experience, as well as controlling our own intellectual capital. So with that as our foundation and our framework, we're going to use this conversation as an exploration today, really. We're just going to do some investigation, and we're going to, this is a tech company, right? Salesforce is all about tech. So we're going to talk about how tech can potentially be leveraged to tool us, Black folks, in a way that we can reclaim and capitalize on what's rightfully ours. That's our culture, our communities, and the creativity that propels not just us, but the rest of society forward. So fortunately, I'm not alone in this conversation. Let's do some intros, shall we? Because we've got some incredible voices here alongside me, and I'm so excited to get the conversation rolling. I want to start with our sister, the lock goddess herself, Dr. Carrie Williams. If you've heard anything about goddess locks, this woman is the originator. She is the inventor. I feel like Little Richard, the originator, the architect. She is that.
Hey.
This is she. So Dr. Carey, how are you, firstly?
John, let me just say I love all of this. I am super excited to be here. My name is Dr. Carey Williams. I am a trichologist. I am a celebrity hairstylist. I'm the CEO of Mahogany Hair Revolution, the creator of Beauty by Dr. K, and the creator of the Goddess Locks. And I'm located in Los Angeles. And my platform is focused on creating hairstyles using techniques that celebrate the versatility of Black hair, but most importantly, keeping the hair healthy. And I've expanded my platform to include educational resources to teach other individuals who have the skill set or who desire to learn the skill set of natural hair, to teach them how to use that skill set, but most importantly, how to build sustainable businesses around that skill set. And I'm really, really grateful that through the creation of the Goddess Lock style, that the style has created a space for other creators and cultural artisans within the natural hair care space to create looks and for us to understand the importance of protecting and investing in our creative ideas.
I love that, a cultural artist. I'm gonna probably revisit that because I want to pull the thread on that a little bit because language matters. And I'm gonna give you an opportunity to just share your own words, but I want to share with our audience that you're not only managing and growing your enterprise, but I'm getting ready to go real Salesforce on you. You're using your business as a platform for change to really break down barriers to entrepreneurship for others, right? So what I'd like to do is just start off with a bit of your background, and I'm gonna then hop over to our brother Ryan right after that, because I don't want to share your bio. I want people to understand not so much what you do, because I listened to Tony Jones after frame it by responding to this sort of a prompt. What is Dr. Carey Williams doing and how is she leveraging her creativity, her talents, her experiences to build and contribute to the culture?
To be a part of building this legacy within hair care specifically for me has really been phenomenal. I'm so full of gratitude because for so long I've read about the pioneers who've come before me and who have had great impact in this industry. Pioneers like Annie Turnbull Malone, as well as Madam C.J. Walker, but even recent pioneers when we think about Talia Wajid and Anu Prestonia, and these are women who I've looked up to, who I've had the opportunity to train with. And so within my generation, being able to be a trailblazer myself, an innovator, and to create a space where I can empower other stylists so that they can see what's possible, it's again phenomenal. And I'm grateful. And I really do pray that the work that I'm doing through my platform and through the community that I'm developing will empower so many more individuals to tap into that greatness within them and to know that the legacy that I'm building with them is also a legacy that they can continue and use their own gifts and their own skill sets to have impact within their community.
That is beautifully stated. The entire time you were talking, all I could think about was, and y'all check me, let me know if I'm using the right term, the right Kwanzaa term. Is it Kuchi Chagalia? Is that the one that's collective economics? So that's what was going through my mind, was the collaboration that really makes all of our ingenuity possible. I think there's a saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's the only way that we're really going to be able to make good collective progress is together. And I love the approach that you're taking to it, where you've actually established an educational and beauty-based business platform that's not just feeding you, but it's feeding others and it's feeding the generations that will perpetuate from all those others.
What I know has made the building of this community successful so far is just me sharing my authentic journey and being very authentic with the stylists and the people that I connect with and that I train with. For myself, I grew up in South Central. I'm a self-taught braider. And so what I've done is I've infused my experience into the educational experience that I create for others. And really speaking to the core of that desire, I know in my own journey to where I am so far, I was looking for community. I was looking for mentors. I was looking for people who I could work with and glean from and see their gifts and benefit from all of that. And it was very difficult to find that consistently. And so what I do know is that I'm not the only one, and being able to tap into, okay, I know if I'm feeling this, there's someone else who's feeling this. And then using technology to not just talk to people within my circle, but technology then allowing me to go beyond my circle. And so when I begin to share my journey, and so I share my successes, yes, but then sharing my journey to my successes, and then using technology to do that so that others who may not be local, who may not be within my immediate circle, are exposed to that, then what it has done and what I believe it will continue to do is it allows others to tap into that authentic part of themselves and realize that they're not the only ones out here feeling alone, and that they don't have to do it alone, and that we can work together, and that there is abundance, and that we can walk side by side and create something that's really, really beautiful and impactful for ourselves, for our communities, for our families, and then of course for our overall legacy. So yeah.
That is marvelous. And so, in the spirit of talking about collaboration, Black collaboration, I want to turn the lens over to our brother Brian. For those of you who do not know Ryan Wilson, he is the CEO and co-founder of TGS Holdings, and The Gathering Spot is the brainchild that's come of that venture. I feel like I would characterize The Gathering Spot as very much an if you know sort of situation, right? It came into existence when Ryan and his partner, his business partner, TK, recognized the need for a space for professionals to really have an opportunity to collaborate, a private membership experience to collaborate around their business and social interests. So I'm gonna read for you very quickly the mission of The Gathering Spot so you have some clarity there. The mission of The Gathering Spot is to create a world where opportunity is the byproduct of community and collaboration. So Ryan, I want to turn the floor over to you to share a bit of your background, maybe give those of us who are outside of the club an insider's perspective on what it feels like inside The Gathering Spot, and maybe share your response to the same question that Dr. Carey so eloquently answered. How are you leveraging The Gathering Spot and every other endeavor that you put your hands to enhance and advance the culture?
Well, first, it's good to be here. I appreciate the invitation and excited about this conversation. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. My goal growing up was to be an attorney, and I thought that was the best way to really help my community in a broad sense. And so for a long time, it didn't matter if you asked me when I was 5 or 15, I would have told you that law school and being an attorney was the thing for me. It took going all the way to law school to see that I didn't want to practice each day. But what did happen while I was going through that process is I came up with the idea for TGS. There were a lot of things that were going on in my life, but the two things that really stood out was, one, I lost the network that college provides. People from all over the world, thought leaders coming to campus, the diversity of thought that just generally is a part of the experience. I find myself in DC. I was at the same institution. I went to Georgetown for undergrad and for law school, but with a very different experience. And so I wondered why we couldn't continue to have places where that sort of synergy was a part of daily life. And the second thing that happened was the Trayvon Martin, first his death, but then also the trial. So George Zimmerman is acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder, and I got an email from some friends that I was doing community organizing work with that said, what are we going to do? And I responded back to them with this need of having a physical place where we could come together. So what I do each day, more than anything, we build spaces. There's event space, a restaurant and bar, and workspace within The Gathering Spot. But the best way to really understand the business centers on the people that are there. Youngest member is 21, oldest is 89. There are creatives, there are entrepreneurs, there are folks working for some of the biggest companies in town that all call the club home. And our job is to try to figure out, how do you put a person that wears a suit and tie right next to a person that wears a t-shirt and jeans? And as simple as that sounds, we do not live in a world where those sort of connections, where we are connecting across traditional lines of difference, where that happens on a regular basis. And so that's our work. We are fascinated each day with trying to figure out how to create a context for people to know one another better. And now 6 years almost in, it's been a beautiful journey and a beautiful celebration of a lot of people that have come together through TGS.
So that's really incredible. And one thing that I took away from that was just one small piece of it that I found to be really unique was the fact that this is such an incredibly intergenerational movement, right? 2189.
Sure.
I think that for the first time in history, we're living now where there are 5 generations that are occupying the same workspaces. And I don't know how often we're actually attacking conversations about how best to work together, how best to ideate together, taking into account generational differences or gaps that may exist. And so I love the fact that you're encouraging that sort of dialogue to exist across generations. To kind of lean in there from a technology perspective, because I'd imagine that the people who make up the gathering spot, you said it's all about the people, right? So the people who make up the gathering spot are really the engine here. And I would say that they probably represent a subset of the true arbiters of culture. These are the creatives, these are the movers, these are the shakers, the ones who are making a difference. How are you actually seeing your members leveraging technology to help them to advance their causes, advance the causes they're connected to? And do you see significant differences in the way the generations are interacting with that technology, the way they're thinking about leveraging it?
Yeah, so the beautiful thing inside of TGS is that you have folks that are just getting started in their career and folks that are well established and frankly retired, right? And what we're able to do, because you have a variety of perspectives, is we're able to share. So specifically when you start to look at technology, it's really interesting. You've got some of the younger folks inside of the club really exploring emerging tech and pushing the boundaries on how do we leverage technology to connect with one another. And then you have, again, the established folks, the more mature members of our community that are reminding us that at the end of the day, that all of the technology that we're building is still meant to facilitate what I see as kind of foundational things that we want to get accomplished. So in our context, really just to connect people, right? And we try to make sure that within our ecosystem, while we're talking about the latest and greatest from a tech perspective, we're doing so with the lens of trying to use that tech to solve real problems. And again, as long as that is the central part and focus that we have, we were able to really come up with some pretty innovative solutions. We know a ton about as a business, a ton about the people that are within the club, but they're able to know a ton about one another, right? And to connect with one another, again, knowing that the digital connection that you may establish can really lead to in-person real work and real relationships down the line. And that to me is how I see the technology within the club be really helpful, but then also drive our impact. We leverage it as a powerful tool.
I love that. And to back to you, Dr. Carey, because you've got this platform, right? And the platform is really aiding in the creation of a global community. And I'd imagine in that community, there are a variety of experiences, a diversity of experiences that are a part of that. I think I saw on your website that the community is being described as those who are aspiring to be professionals, those who are already professionals, those who are well established, those who are thinking about it. So I hear sort of a similarity and a mirroring in the approach with the Gathering Spot, as well as Mahogany Hair Revolution and the Goddess Lock platform. How is technology and how are digital tools making it easier for you to keep that conversation vibrant and to create the right connections that help the community to grow?
The way that I'm using digital tools for my educational platform is being an educator for so long. I would host workshops and I would teach locally, but digital tools allow me to create a global community and allows me to have a broader impact, and being able to use technology in order to connect with other stylists around the world has really been phenomenal. I really like using platforms like Slack because it allows me not to only build community between myself and the stylist, but it allows the stylist to build community amongst one another and to be able to connect regionally. I really, really emphasize within my educational platform the importance of working together so we can go further, faster. And so technology allows us to do that. Oftentimes when I am working with the stylist within my platform and I'm teaching, I'm training individuals, they don't even realize that there's someone within the classroom, our digital classroom, that is actually in their city. And so I find that using technology not only allows us to connect at a distance, so I can talk to someone who's in Nigeria or who's in London, but it also allows stylists to build community and to be able to discover one another, and they're in the same city. So it's really, really been great. And I look forward to having this continuous impact using technology and really building and fortifying community amongst hairstylists within this industry.
Okay, so I love everything that you just stated here, Dr. Carey. And one thing that I hear is that you're leveraging technology to create visible examples of possibility, right? Representation, because representation really does matter. And what I see happening with your business, Ryan's business, and so many others, I feel like these are components of a larger wave, sort of a reawakening. I don't know exactly what type of label to put on it, but we've seen it manifest in ways like, for example, to use the beauty industry, we've seen this reclamation of Black beauty standards and hair, and the products and all of the commerce that surrounds that, and the pride that is associated with that as well, right? Like our hair, our beauty has just been for so long a topic of conversation, controversy. If there's somebody not trying to appropriate it, then there's somebody trying to suppress it. And we're seeing so many folks, from everyday people to celebrities, now really owning the opportunity to show up as their full selves in spaces that didn't traditionally embrace us quite as much as our full selves. And you are a big part of that movement. And I would just love to hear from your perspective what it means to you to be able to contribute to that sort of a movement in such a significant way. For any emerging up and coming business owner, what is a piece of advice that you would share with them on how best to use technology to become better and more active participants in this economy, and really just kind of take back the culture in a way that grows profit margins and empowers others that are around them, above them, and behind them?
So the first thing that I'll share is that I think it's really important that we encourage folks to be good stewards of the ideas that they have. Those ideas are not random. There's a reason that that idea is yours. And it is important for you to, again, be a good steward of that responsibility. When you start there, right, it really becomes possible for you to accomplish anything. The biggest thing in entrepreneurship is really about like your mindset more than anything else. The game is designed to be very, very tiring. I mean, it's taxing at every turn. You're never going to have enough of anything, it feels like, starting with capital, and it will never feel like a good day to get started. And so if you're a person that has an idea, technology or otherwise, today is that day, right? I mean, do not look for perfect sunny skies and for the birds to be chirping and for that special signal, because again, there's never going to be perfect circumstance, but there is a you that's prepared to make that thing happen. We've seen it inside of TGS. I've watched folks that had a quick thought, turn that quick thought into real companies that employ real people, right? And it really is about just taking a meaningful step every single day. I mean, getting up with that sort of intention. I started this business when I was 24 years old, and I would be lying to you if I said I knew what I was doing. I had no idea, but what I did have was just a persistence each day. And I saw a quote going back to that same summer that I mentioned previously. And I'm a big Jay-Z fan. Someone asked Jay-Z, what's the best piece of entrepreneurial advice that you have? And he tweeted back, don't listen to anyone, everyone's scared. And that's the last thing that I'll share. I mean, as you go through this journey, you're going to have a lot of folks, sometimes folks that are close to you, tell you that the thing that you're doing is not the thing that you should do. You've got to, and especially in the early days, push past those no's. In our example, it was 97 straight no's before the first person said yes as we were raising capital. So keep going. Keep going. Know that what's yours is yours, and we're excited to see what you build. The community needs it. We do genuinely need, particularly people of color, to fight for these dreams, because they'll have an impact.
That's incredible. And, I really wish that we had a poll at this point, because I'd love to ask the audience how many of you all actually thought that Ryan was any older than 24. Like, hashtag Black Don't Crack. It's true. But no, everything that you stated was really, really incredibly powerful and poignant. And I want to state that same question to Dr. Carey. I mean, what would you share, or what do you share as bits of advice for those who really want to step into these spaces and make similar contributions to the ones that you and Carey, or you and Ryan, are actually making in making an impact that will last for generations to come?
The advice that I would give someone is to know that not everyone is going to see what you see, and to really just stay focused on your vision and to believe in yourself. Because I think about my journey, and to get to where I am now, I remember telling people that I was going to open up an all natural hair salon in LA. And people were like, girl, like, natural hair in LA, you're going to have to get somebody who knows how to do some weaving, who know how to straighten some hair. And there was that part of me, because one thing that when you're on your journey to achieving your vision, you will have people in your life who do love you and who do care about you and who will give you feedback and give you advice. And it's really coming from a place of wanting to guide you in their concern, but you have to be so grounded and so sure and so confident in the vision that you have for yourself, and stay focused on that, and not to be discouraged when others don't see it. When others don't see it, that's actually a good thing, because that's for you. So to really stay focused on that, and to know that the journey to achieving your vision, it's not going to be easy. And similar to something that Ryan said, it reminds me of a quote from Les Brown. That's one of my favorite quotes, where he says, make know your vitamin. And we've heard these things, that the word no, rejection is just redirection. And so just the importance of just staying focused and believing in yourself, and just knowing that as long as you keep going, as long as you stay focused, as long as you believe in that thing that God has given to you uniquely, that eventually it will happen. And every time you are working on your vision and it feels like it's not working the way that you actually envisioned it, that's only an opportunity for you to see how you can, again, redirect, shift, pivot, and sometimes even rebuild. But it's all for the greater good. And it's all towards building and developing that legacy.
John, can I build on something Dr. Carey just said?
Absolutely.
It's particularly for folks that are building technology companies. When you think about no, right? Anything that is actually disruptive, something that people have not seen, should be met with a no, right? Because if people haven't seen it before, the natural place that they should get to very quickly is, I don't understand, right? And so as an entrepreneur, right, you should actually use those no's sometimes as confirmation that you're actually heading in the right direction because you've identified a crack in this matrix that other folks aren't seeing. And that's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is always going to be found where people don't see it naturally. Otherwise, it would already be out in the world and you would describe the business and people would say, of course, I understand what you're doing. Sounds great. Right. So no, actually over time for us, I mean, if I go back, I would say I'm going to put event space, a restaurant and bar, and workspace under the same roof, but then business is really going to be about people. And folks would say, so people are going to eat next to where they work, and then they're going to do events at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But it's actually not about that. Okay, whatever you say. Fast forward, we're called the gathering spot. And we go through a time where you cannot gather, right? Where the word gather was actually a thing where folks said, you shouldn't do it. What we learned during that time is the thing that we saw back in the beginning, that you could build a business around people, even though it has space, but was a real thing. We had a 99% retention rate during COVID last year. And throughout the entire pandemic thus far, right, we have continued to be able to scale the business. We opened one in Washington, D.C. We opened another one that's coming in Los Angeles. All of that scale happened because folks did not think what we were doing was possible, right? So trust me, I am not, there's nothing special about me or my business partner, right? We are just folks that kept going when people told us what we were doing was impossible. Everybody has the ability to do, again, like the thing that you have, it is not random. You really have to get comfortable with like the thing that is in your heart that you cannot stop thinking about. That is a thing that I believe that is assigned to you, right? And so please do not see that thing as just a thing that just happens to be there. It's yours for a reason, and it's about now trying to figure out how we get it out into the world.
That's the truth. That is the 100% truth for sure. I was talking to an entrepreneur last week, and he was talking to a group of kids. He was talking to like 10 to 18-year-olds. And he's built this incredible enterprise. And they said, well, how do you know that you're successful? You just told us it's not a destination, it's the journey. And I don't know how I'm making progress in the right direction. And he literally essentially stated what you all landed here is that knowing, you know, and it gave me the opportunity to try and trademark my own saying, because if anybody were to ask you about what success means, I think a lot of people would default immediately to numbers and saying, well, I measure my success by these KPIs. But I feel like success is not so much a number as much as it's a knowing, or as much as it is a knowledge of self. And so in the interest of time, we do have to wrap. I could talk to you all both forever, but we don't have forever. We got to let our viewers get on to the rest of the day. But I cannot overstate my appreciation for both of you, Dr. Carey and Ryan, and for all of our viewers that have tuned in today. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. Hang in with us. The party continues. Stick with us because there's so much more good stuff that's coming up next behind this. But in the meantime, we want to thank each and every one of you. Please be safe and stay well.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Carey and Ryan for dropping those gems. I took so much away from that conversation and cannot wait to hear more from our upcoming panelists. If you are just joining us, welcome to Salesforce's first ever National Black Business Month Block Party presented by Black Enterprise and Deloitte Digital. I'm your host, Gia Peppers, and we've been hearing the sounds from my sister, DJ Damo, and we are both super excited to be here with you to share in this meaningful conversation series about building Black wealth and investing in the future and having some fun and some good laughs along the way. Today, you'll hear from Salesforce customers, partners, employees, and some of the most sought after Black business leaders and influencers across the country. And we have a little something special in store for you. We'll have a special edition hashtag Boss Talks with Ebony Beckwith, Salesforce Foundation CEO and Chief Philanthropy Officer, featuring Emmy-nominated actress and one of my absolute faves, Yvonne Orji, as well as a music performance by a Grammy-nominated artist that you just do not want to miss. Trust me. So wherever you're tuning in from, be sure to use the hashtag National Black Business Month and hashtag Black Business Block Party on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are watching and posting, make sure you use the hashtag. We have a great program in store for you, and we are thrilled that you chose to celebrate National Black Business Month with us right now. So, just in case you missed it before, I'd like to also take this opportunity to pay respects to the traditional custodians of the land where we're currently filming from in Washington, D.C., my hometown, originally the home of the Nakachunk people. Now, we are so excited because an acknowledgement pays respect to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and honors with gratitude their elders, past and present, as well as future generations. It also acknowledges that this land was built upon exclusions and erasures of indigenous peoples. This calls us to commit to the statement that says, the trail to equality for all starts with transparency, education, inclusive dialogue, action, community building, and an unbreakable commitment to making the world a better place. To learn more about the native land in your local area, visit thenative-land.ca, the link you see on the screen below, just in case I can't say it right, and then visit them to learn more about the original custodians of your hometown. Before we get into our next session, some of our early bird Block Party Summit registrants are receiving a special gift from Salesforce. That's right. The first 50 registered guests will receive an email to claim a limited edition, phenomenally Black-owned t-shirt produced by our friends at Phenomenal. Congrats to the early crew. An email will hit your inboxes shortly. Coming up next, we're highlighting tech and Black businesses with Shalea Shipman, Baron Davis, and Khadijah Robinson. This is a candid conversation that you really won't want to miss. And also, be sure to invite your community to the party. We are just getting started. Again, make sure you're using those hashtags National Black Business Month and hashtag Black Business Block Party. Share your favorite moments and words of wisdom by tweeting at BoldForce as well, because we want to hear from you, so don't go anywhere.
We are missing. We are missing from so many rooms, classrooms, boardrooms, everything in between. But we are here. We are programmers and coders, animators and analysts, engineers and entrepreneurs, designers, builders, creators, the bringers of change. We are here. We are here leading. We are here innovating. We are here working for our vision of better companies, communities, and countries. We are here. We have always been here. Our stories, our voices, our ideas have always mattered, more than mattered. And we won't stop asking more of the spaces that need to make space for more like us. All of us, all different types of us.
Hey everyone, I'm Shalea Shipman, Senior Director of Strategic Business Development for SMB here at Salesforce. And my team is solely committed to connecting Black and Brown entrepreneurs with Salesforce technology. I'm joined here today by Khadijah Robinson, Spelman alum, attorney, founder, and now the CEO of Shop Circulate, one of the latest ventures backed by Combs Enterprises. And we also have with us Baron Davis, first-round draft pick, two-time NBA All-Star, entrepreneur, filmmaker, and investor. And today we're going to discuss tech and Black business, a conversation that will explore the many ways entrepreneurs can leverage technology to establish, launch, scale, and expand their businesses. From tech platforms to the creative ways in which we can use them, we are bridging the gap between tech and Black entrepreneurs. So with that said, I'm so excited to have you two here today, not only because you're doing groundbreaking work as entrepreneurs and creatives and innovators and storytellers and all these amazing things that you're involved in, but we're also doing some really incredible projects with each of you respectively. I know Khadijah, we have worked together with Shop Circulate. Salesforce is the technology partner for this venture. I think it is such a brilliant idea. The notion of ensuring that our dollars are being poured back into our community is something that I have heard my entire life, and now we are at a point where we can really connect technology with that idea and go faster, connect Black economies with Black communities and everyone who wants to support not only Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs, but the goods that we produce, which we know we are so talented in that space. And then Baron, we are partnering with you. You are the co-star for the 6th season of Small Business Revolution by Deluxe. And I'm so honored that Salesforce is able to be a sponsor of this upcoming season. And I think what's even more unique and really special about this upcoming season is that it's taking place in Minneapolis, which we all know has been the epicenter for so much of the conversation that we have heard as it pertains to social injustice and the starting point of really the civil unrest that we saw in 2020. I think this is an incredible opportunity for us to shift the narrative. Instead of this being a place that we deem as, challenged and dark, there is a thriving community of Black entrepreneurs, Black-owned businesses, and with the Small Business Revolution, their whole intention is to ensure that small businesses in some of our smaller cities in the country are getting the insight, the resources, and the support that they need to really think critically and innovative with their business. I know right now, as we think about where we're at, we really have to ensure that our businesses are digital first. And Salesforce completely affirms that message because we are all about technology and innovation, and really having our consumer placed at the center of all things that we do. And that is a strong message that we have to ensure that businesses everywhere, regardless of how big or how small they are, can be successful. So with that said, I'd love to just pass the mic over to Khadijah. Would love for you to just introduce yourself and share a little bit about what's going on in your world of entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Shalea, for that great introduction. As Shalea said, I'm Khadijah Robinson. I am a Savannah, Georgia native and Spelman alumna, and also an attorney turned entrepreneur, which is probably the best decision that I have made. It's very funny that you have two folks on this call who and were in other completely different careers before turning to entrepreneurship. But I think it really says something about how strong the pool is for entrepreneurship in our community, and particularly for Black women. We're the fastest growing segment of new entrepreneurs in the country. And I'm happy to be a part of that number. And I'm really excited about what we are building and what we're building in partnership with Salesforce, with Shop Circulate. So just a little bit about my journey. I started my first startup in 2019, which was the Nile List. And I started that while I was still working full-time as an attorney, so not getting very much sleep, but I was really excited about the possibility that I saw to really impact Black entrepreneurs and Black businesses
across the country with what I was building, which was a discovery platform for Black e-commerce brands. And we launched that, the actual platform, March 1st, 2020, just in time for the world to go every which ways with respect to COVID. And then very soon thereafter, with respect to the murder of George Floyd. And that really made the work that I was doing with the Nihilist that much more impactful because of our focus on e-commerce brands, one, in the way that many people's focus shift to online shopping. And then with respect to the way that people had started thinking about how they could be more purposeful with their support for Black entrepreneurs and our ability to really facilitate that. So that business, The Nihilist, was acquired by Shop Circulate earlier this year. And I have come on as the CEO of Shop Circulate to really push forward this collective vision that my new partner, Diddy, and I have regarding how we can really help Black entrepreneurs scale and change the way that people think about shopping in alignment with their values, not making it something that's a drudge, that's a duty, and something that you have to compromise on quality for, but making it something that's really interactive, that's interesting, that's cutting edge, and really giving Black entrepreneurs that innovative space and platform that they deserve, because they are part of really pushing our culture to the forefront. And we're excited to be building a business that allows us to showcase how our businesses are part of that culture.
That's awesome. And I'm so excited for the work that you have ahead, Khadijah. You're doing some phenomenal things. I know some things we can't even talk about right now, but I love the innovation that is really going to come to pass, because as we are setting in this new normal, the way in which we do things is completely transformed. The way I buy my groceries is different. If you just think about it from a consumer lens, we don't do things the same way we once did. And so when it comes to business and when it comes to driving revenue and being successful in our entrepreneurial efforts, we have to think about what is the consumer thinking about all the time and how do we design for them. Baron, would love to learn a little bit about your journey as well.
One, thank you, Shalaya, Khadijah. I just want to commend you both. Shalaya, I want to commend you just for the work that you're doing. And, just when people say pushing culture, I don't think people know what that means, but for the work you're doing and just having me be a part of this and the Block Party and bringing Blackness and our people to Salesforce and giving them tools and information, I think that is, that's what we need. We need pioneers, cultural leaders. Khadijah, such an honor to be a part of what you're building now. And just thinking about, us as a people, it's like if we can carve ourselves some space out in America and go sit in the corner, right, with our money, with our resources, with our brands, with our intelligence, we have an incredible opportunity, right, to really start to look at what does the greater world look like, right? And then how do we start to activate? And so I say for me, just playing basketball for 13 years in the NBA, what triggered it for me was I became my own agent. And it was people like Diddy and the Jay-Z's and, people of that nature that in entertainment and sports, you go to look at to say, how can I build my brand? How can I be something else, that other athletes can look at? How can I be a pioneer to our culture? And so, I really, from being my own agent, looked at all my deals. I wasn't a lawyer, so I had to get a lot of advice. But, I kind of stepped out on the limb and I became, like an insider, but an outsider to a lot of the younger guys. And if you look at the NBA now, you see these guys going into venture, going into tech, right? Thinking about their brand and who they want to be. And I would say for me, it was just really wanting to push that when I was playing basketball. And now as an investor and also as an entrepreneur, I think it's the most important thing is to be a great listener and to be a great advocate for each other, right? And not to be competitive entrepreneurs, right? But be competitive in the landscape. And so whatever we can do to help brands, entrepreneurs, kind of meet in the middle and find our space where we can create more market value for our people. That's what, really I want to do through investing, content, and, hosting and entertainment, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Baron. The one thing that I'm hearing from both you and Khadijah is this sense of community, right? This sense of building community, also leaning into our community. There's a phrase that we've all heard: iron sharpens iron. We see influencers, like Sean Combs, like Jay-Z, like Nas, who we grew up seeing them one way through one lens.
Right.
And then we're hearing like, oh, wow, they're investing in this. It really inspires other people to figure out, well, what do I need to do differently? So much gratitude to both you, Baron and Khadijah. Thank you for extending the thank you to me, but it's really seeing people like you who are really pushing the boundaries and wanting to do more, not only for ourselves as individuals, because that's always nice. And we like to build up wealth for ourselves and our family, but it's bigger than that. We have a generation of entrepreneurs that are looking to see, what is it that I need to do to be successful or to meet whatever that expectation that we may have for ourselves as individuals or others may have of us. So lots of opportunity there. Khadijah, I'd love for you to share how you leverage technology specifically as it pertains to the nihilists, wanting to build this community. Years and years ago, growing up in Oakland, we had what's called the Black Business Listing. It was a newspaper. One of my mom's really good friends, the late Dr. C. Diane Howe, led that publication for years. And so growing up, it was like, okay, if I need to connect with Black businesses, I'm going to go to the newspaper. We're in a completely different era now. So talk to us a little bit how technology has pushed the nihilists in being successful.
So I said, guys, when I was looking for information when I was in school, I was going to my Encyclopedia Britannica disc instead of the internet. So I know about relying on what you have when you have it. And I will say this, like many other startup founders, I did not start with the ritzy platform, and definitely not the platform that people can find now when they go visit the nihilist. I started with the Google spreadsheet. That was it. And I did not think about it as a business. I thought about it as, I want to keep track of Black brands that I want to shop with. And I want to make sure that I can find them easily. Or if someone's told me about a brand and I want to bookmark it and I don't want to forget it, I need to keep track of it here in this Google spreadsheet. And as that grew and grew, I did two things. I was able to, one, validate that people were interested in this as a solution, which I did unintentionally, but by literally just talking to folks about what I was doing and having them come harass me to get access to my spreadsheet and get recommendations from me about brands that they could shop with. And then I also really formed that initial database right there in that Google spreadsheet for what I built into my first platform with the nihilist. And so really thought about the ways that I could make that discovery process for Black brands easier. And for me, it really looked like a Yelp, but relying a little bit more on the storytelling about who was behind the brand and who was really driving those Black businesses, because that's such a huge part of what we do as Black entrepreneurs. A lot of us have these incredible stories about how we got started with our entrepreneurship journey, and the way that we approach creating the products and the services that we're putting out into the world can be very unique. It's often very mission driven. We are often very concerned with who our customer is and how we're serving them, particularly with respect to making healthy products, making products that are environmentally friendly or conscious of our community. And so really being able to highlight that and think about how we tell the stories of the brands, how we tell the stories of what the company ethos is. And that can be everything from, for example, I use a Black-owned company for toilet tissue, and it's a they make toilet tissue from bamboo, and they
Real.
could do it on a real. Yep, there we go. I use them. I love them. They do it on a subscription model as well. And so really telling those kinds of stories, or telling the stories of the, the candle maker who started making candles as a hobby when, she was undergoing chemotherapy, and then it grew from there. And so we really like to highlight those sort of stories and those journeys, because that's what really allows people to connect with brands that they might not have exposure to otherwise. And so figuring out how we built that storytelling into the technology and how we use tech to really showcase that was really important to me, not just at the Nihilist, but it's something that we're continuing with what we're building with Shop Circulate, and thinking about how we make it even better. With the Nihilist, it was really, telling the story and having information on the founder that you could find on the website. With Shop Circulate, it's really going to be about interactive shopping, about live stream shopping. It's going to be about video interviews with the founders, or allowing people to engage with audio and video on each brand page and actually talk to brands, ask them questions in real time. And so really thinking about how we create that community and how we leverage storytelling with technology. And there's so many different ways to do it now. And I think a lot of it has become even more advanced in the last year, as we're trying to bridge these, digital gaps that are between us, and with the respect to the pandemic. So it is an always iterative process. We're never like, okay, we've reached the mountaintop and that's it. But it's one that is really exciting, thinking about how we really activate that community and tell our stories with technology.
It's almost as if the environment that we're living in today requires us to move faster, right? It's like you cannot be successful regardless of what your passion is, regardless of what your entrepreneur endeavors are, without thinking digital first. And unfortunately, many of the Black and Brown small owned businesses that did not survive during the initial days and initial months of the pandemic, it's because they did not have the infrastructure in place.
Yep.
Baron, you're involved in just about everything. We've already established that.
Well, I'm involved in Real. We know that.
You're involved in Real. We know exactly what type of toilet tissue you use, so that's great. But there's no doubt that you're building your empire, not only as a thought leader, but a film producer, entrepreneur, and investor. In this world that tells us we can have it all and do it all, how has technology helped you to establish and grow your many businesses and interests in entrepreneurship?
I would say for me, it's the information, right? Kind of started off in the investment space, just thinking about companies, researching companies and seeing what they do. Simultaneously being an entrepreneur, your head down. And as an athlete, like I can say when I first started becoming an entrepreneur, like I was terrible because I didn't know what type of entrepreneur I was, right? So I think that's key, is to know, know what your secret sauce is, and so once I figured out that, investing in technology, so I started using every social media app platform. I had a phone that, I would follow all these companies and VCs and people on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I would just download everyone's app and I would go through it, and I would treat it, almost like from a creative standpoint. And so when I started looking at it, I was like, well, where am I, deficient from a technology standpoint? And it was more so thinking about what I did not have, right? Or how disorganized I was, right? I can use social media, I can use Dropbox, you can use all these tools, but if they're not synchronized, right? And you have no type of program or philosophy about why you use this app, why you would open an app, right? You don't know how to service yourself. And so I started looking at companies that were e-commerce companies, because I am not good at e-commerce. I'm good at ideas, but I'm not good at distribution, so it was like, I started going and kind of analyzing my world and my brand. and say, what are you good at? What are you not good at? Okay, start investing in the things that you're not good at that you like, and kind of take that journey and learn. And so I think, as technology grows, and just, thinking about what Khadijah is doing, it's like, you're going to be able to wake up, open your phone and say, I want to do this, right? And be able to find the people, connect, build the community, but also just everything is at, kind of like the touch of a button, and you get to create your own world and in your own world around you, through technology. And so, whether it's fintech, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's other content companies, crypto, right? Just kind of looking at it holistically and say, how can I make investments that will strengthen, my position as an entrepreneur for what I want to build?
Yeah, what I'm hearing a lot from what you stated, Baron, is there is a discovery process that we have to go through. And there's also a growth process that we have to go through as entrepreneurs. A lot of us have great ideas, but don't necessarily know how to apply them. Or a lot of us have great ideas, but there's a competitor that may already be applying that idea, or it's on their roadmap. And so going through, the appropriate networking conversations with critical people in the space, doing the thorough research is really important. And as I stated, being in this, it feels even a more faster paced environment that we had been in before the pandemic. You have to really be on your toes about what technologies are coming out and how can I build out my idea, or maybe pivot altogether. And Khadijah, I know in conversations that we've had about Shop Circulate, you are thinking bigger and better and different. And that's what I appreciate so much about what you bring to the table. I know you started your career as an attorney, but as we've talked about before, you are an entrepreneur at heart. Sometimes I have conversations with you. I'm like, wait, what did you say? What do you want to do? I'd love for you to just share, what is your process and what is your methodology when it comes to, I want to do something that's bigger, better, more innovative, and that's really going to attract the interest of the consumer, right? Sometimes we build products that we're like, this is a great idea, and I think we should have X in the market. But sometimes consumers don't want that. So you have to know your target audience. You have to know how your consumer is going to receive what you're putting out and what their expectations are. So walk us through what your secret sauce is, Khadijah.
Oh man, I don't have a secret sauce. I don't know if anyone has it figured out completely. And I I will let you in on a secret that most entrepreneurs won't tell you, but most of them and most of us just don't have a process. The process is winging it, no matter how far we get into our entrepreneurship journey. We have a lot of things that rest on our gut. And I think that a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that you'll see out there just have really good guts, and they trust their guts. And then they validate. So this is the thing. If there's any type of process that I rely on, it's really the validation piece. A lot of times I'm not joking, literally wake up at like 4:00 in the morning from a semi, and I'll just say, oh, we should build this particular feature onto the platform. This would be lit. Like, what if you can get on this platform and see what all your friends and every influencer or celebrity that you like is buying? You can now see what they buy and buy the same thing that they buy. You can see that Baron just bought some real toilet tissue and buy that same toilet tissue. And now you're like, yo, I got the same toilet tissue Baron Davis got. What's up? And that just came to me literally like waking up at 4 a.m. But then it's like, okay, now I have this idea. How do I know if people are interested in that? So at first I just sort of tease it. I know people who are in my target audience, or we have already identified a group of folks that we can test ideas with. And we just talk to them about it. We brainstorm about what it might look like internally. And then you get a very, rudimentary prototype together. And when I say prototype, I think a lot of people think like the first version of what it is that you're trying to build, but it can literally be like some frames. It can be, some clickable photos. It could be a deck that, just kind of has a few links embedded or something like that. But it can be very rudimentary, just a way to say, if we actually present people with this feature or with this platform, are they going to use it? Are they going to use it in the way that we think they're going to use it? Because maybe I think that people really want to see what folks are buying and buy that same thing. But really, if we are testing it, we haven't tested this yet, but if we're testing it, the way that people actually use this kind of technology is that they want people to see the kind of things that they like and be able to then buy them gifts. And now you have a better idea of what kind of things you should be shopping for when it comes to Shalea and it's her birthday, because all the brands that she likes, is you see everything that she buys on Shop Circulate. And so users always surprise you, but the data never lies. And so don't get too tied to a particular idea, because you really want your users, or the people that you want to be your users, to tell you what it is that they want. And they will speak loud and clear. For example, I'm an avid Twitter user. We've been telling Twitter for a long time, like, y'all got to get an edit button. They haven't given it to us yet. They're using and abusing us, but we they have a ready-made way for users to talk to them, because you can literally at Twitter and talk to them on the platform directly. So it's just a constant stream of feedback from your users, and it's easy to sort through mentions and hashtags for them and figure out in an aggregate way what people are asking for, the way that they're using the platform. And another amazing example of that is, again, with Twitter. They rolled out Twitter Spaces and they rolled out Twitter Fleets.
Yep.
And that was in response to some other technology that was coming out, Clubhouse and other things, Snapchat, IG stories, all this. And they rolled out Twitter Fleets, and then they pulled it back when they realized people just were not using it in the way that they thought they would. And for a startup of our size that doesn't have the money probably to build out a whole feature and test it for several months, and then decide to roll it back, you do that at a smaller scale. And we find out much earlier on that actually our users are not really interested in disappearing content in the way that Snapchat users are interested in disappearing content. So, but they are really interested in Twitter Spaces. So that's something that we focus on, as opposed to the disappearing content. It's a very iterative process that you are constantly talking to your users about, and constantly engaging that feedback loop, so that you're actually using what they tell you and listening, and not just saying, well, I really think that disappearing content is cool, so we're going to build it anyway, if that's not what your users want.
Yeah, one thing that we always say at Salesforce is that we place our customer at the center of everything. And if all businesses take that approach, you will find that your roadmap, your product roadmap, may be quite different than what you envisioned, because we sometimes think this is what the community needs, this is what our users need, but users will communicate with you and let you know. I really love this approach around social and incorporating that into the e-commerce experience. We're seeing some of that in some of our social platforms that already exist today, but again, the way in which we shop, the way in which we engage is different, not only within our Black community, but in all communities. There's been a major push in the last nearly 18 months to buy Black, shop locally. We've seen it with our with folks like Nextdoor. They've had major pushes for this. I've seen it in my own community about, have you checked out this business? You should support them. So this notion of community is not just in isolation with Black folks. It really is everywhere. And if we are able to continue to ride this momentum of supporting Black-owned businesses, not only just buying from them, but engaging with them, investing in them from all aspects of entrepreneurship, there's a really big opportunity for us in our generation to see a major shift. I would love to get your vantage point, Baron, because I know in this investor world, you probably see a lot of things. You know about real toilet paper. I'm sure you know about many things. So given this unique vantage point that you have, not only in professional sports, but also film, venture capital, what new trends are you noticing across industries that are helping to shape the future of not only technology, but Black technology, and what our role is in this large space?
I would say collaboration. right? Black people don't collaborate. I mean, that's what, you can make all these things like Black people don't work together, Black people don't collaborate, but you're starting to see a lot of collaboration. And that has now starting to take shape in the venture side, in the tech side, in the entrepreneur side. And, it's becoming an incredibly beautiful thing because you're watching us work together. Right. And it's like, okay, Khadijah's a lawyer. I'm a content person. So-and-so is a CMO. And it's like, we need each other. Right. And so we're starting to see that collaboration, right, is going to open up a world of other things, right? And also this melting pot of industries, right? When we talk about community and community building, the buzzword of now is culture, right? And to me, I think people have really misappropriated the word culture, right? And kind of use that as a flag, as a staple, as a signal to raise money, right? Moving fast, to move fast, to throw something up there to feel like they represent us, right? And so I get so excited when you talk, Khadijah, because when you think about what happened in George Floyd and you think about the action and then the reaction, right? Everybody was just throwing stuff. Right? Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. And so I love this approach of, the new entrepreneur, the new Black female entrepreneur who's building an e-commerce platform that's holistic and community driven, because I'm sure she saw that and said, well, you can't, you're doing the same thing you're doing to us in the physical world. You're sending us over here on Crenshaw, then you tell us we got to go to Harlem to get that. Then you sending us all the way, to Chicago, right? And so we have to travel for culture, but culture is in our city. And technology is going to allow for that city to have a space, a landscape, and a place where we can engage and find people. And so I think that's where, the industry is moving. It's moving towards collaboration and is moving towards community and ecosystem building. Right? Because if we can support and identify each other, then there's nothing that separates, high quality from high quality, right? It's just a matter of presentation and a place to find it. And when you think about the Black community and Black culture, even in the entertainment space, it's like, I'll give you a deal. I'll give you a deal. And now it's like, okay, you got 4 famous Black people. Okay, that's enough. You know what I mean? And you got 2 Black channels, that's enough. And it's like, that's not enough. We got to take care of sports. We got to take care of fashion. We got to take care of business. And so, to me, it's like the community, even in the entertainment community, people are starting to collaborate more, right? Kevin Hart, Diddy's, they're starting to, invest more into the next generation of creators. And I think that's just ultimately going to make the pot bigger for that next superstar. But more importantly, we got to give our young kids and our young entrepreneurs guardrails, right? So they know this is how you do it. This is the walk you take. And then, when Khadijah IPOs her company, she'll be there to invest.
That's really, we're laughing, but that's really how it works, right? And so when we talk about empowering this next generation of entrepreneurs, not everybody has the platform of being able to attend an HBCU or becoming an attorney or being a first round draft pick and having a 13-year successful career in the NBA. How are we going to ensure that young entrepreneurs who have great ideas, but maybe don't have the infrastructure, what are some tips that we can offer them in just getting started? How do they get started? What recommendations do you have, Baron or Khadijah?
Well, Shalaya, if somebody could figure out how I could get the opportunity to be a first round draft pick, then they're gonna make a lot of money.
That would solve everything. That would solve everything. Right. Look, but
for me didn't get that opportunity.
You bring up an excellent point though, Khadijah, because once you have that platform, a lot of opportunities open up. And you
Yeah.
can either choose to walk through those doors or not. And I think that it takes a lot of guts and listening to your heart and what you need to do and what feels right for you. But you're 100% right. If we could all be first round draft picks, I don't even know if we'd be on this call. We'd be on an island.
That'd be fine with me.
But Baron is speaking my language right now. Like, collaboration is so key for me. And Shalea, I know that you probably know this from being in calls with me, but I'm always talking about ecosystem building and how we bring in, this is a network that we're building with so many Black businesses that we're bringing onto the platform. But even beyond that, I'm thinking about the third party technology that we're plugging in and who we're looking to for that. We're looking for a customer service solution. I'm going straight to a Black startup for that. And we're engaging with them and bringing in, another trend actually that I've noticed with respect to a lot of Black startups is really leaning in on the AI and how we can use artificial intelligence to really help advance a lot of our technology and make these connections and the communities more seamless. And so using an AI powered and Black led customer service solution, using a Black owned company that is actually based here in London, where I am currently, to power our audio and video engagement of users on the platform. Using a Black owned HR company that helps rely on both AI and outsourcing to make HR affordable for, startups who are our size. And so really looking across the board and saying that at all of these different points, we're creating our own ecosystem of Black service providers and of Black entrepreneurs that can plug in, and then facilitating those connections for the businesses that we're working with as well and other founders in our network, so that when someone else needs to engage HR, they know that they can do that with the Black owned company, and making it such that we can, sort of playing on the name, keep that money circulating within our community and allow it to fuel that next generation. And then, it now lands after several rounds and iterations in the pocket of the young entrepreneur who's just getting started, who's just launching their first clothing line, or who's just getting their feet wet. For example, one of my favorite cousins is a sports agent. And so even branching out into areas like this, where we can create a system that brings in everyone. I'm thinking about ecosystem building with him, with another friend who is the founder of one of the only Black owned private jet companies in the world, and how we can find synergies there. Sports agent, jet company. Well, guess who needs the clients of a sports agent?
Hello.
So making these connections, both with respect to the platform we're building, but then just with our ecosystem in general, now facilitates the next level of folks, because if we're purposeful about it, we're creating opportunities for them. They know that people are going to be looking for them to provide certain services and provide certain levels of business, because we want to make sure that we're supporting Black entrepreneurs like them. So I'm all about it.
100%. Well, this has been an incredible discussion with both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time today to join us at the first ever Salesforce Black Business Month Block Party. This is such an exciting time for us. I'm really thrilled to see what you will do next, Baron. I'm sure that you have your hands in multiple pots. And Khadijah, I know we'll be talking very shortly. Just before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any best practices, any tips to entrepreneurs who are just getting started, that have an idea but don't really know where to begin?
I would just plug my show. I'm co-hosting Small Business Revolution. Watch the show. Amanda Brinkman is the host. Deluxe and Salesforce major sponsors behind it. But I think for that show, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about small business. I knew nothing about really like micro small business. But I would say watch the show for inspiration. We went to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and this is the one thing I've been excited about. Like I cannot wait for, this season to come out because I got to like really like live and be with, these entrepreneurs that are creating positivity in a place where people would think it was dark, So I want to give a big shout out to the show. And then, Christmas time, we got Black Santa coming out. So we gotta run it up this year.
Awesome. We're excited to see that. Khadijah, anything you'd like to leave with our guests?
Well, I'm definitely going to be watching Barron's show, so I'm excited about that. But outside of that, I would say just start. A lot of people are so fearful of taking that first step.
Yes.
Going back to my favorite platform, Twitter, I saw someone say last year that procrastination is a fear response. We're often afraid of what will happen when we start. So we put it off. We don't start. And someone had to shake me because I was doing my lawyer thing and thinking about all the risk and everything that could go wrong before starting the nihilist. And another lawyer turned entrepreneur friend shook me and was like, girl, just start. Like, what you doing? You know that people want it because you've already validated with the process you've done so far. So start.
Yeah.
And I did, and it has been a crazy whirlwind, exciting and amazing journey since then. So I would say start with where you're at and do the smallest possible thing that you can to validate, and then go from there and build and just build, and keep that passion, and don't lose it. Don't go crazy and burn yourself out, because then we don't get to enjoy the amazing thing that you're creating if you can't make it because you're burnt out. So just start, keep the passion, and don't burn out.
I love that. Thank you so much, Khadijah and Barron. You two have been amazing. Look forward to connecting with you again in the near future. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Shalea, Barron, and Khadijah, for that very informative discussion. I definitely took some notes, and some of the strategies you all mentioned, I will be sure to apply in my next business venture. So be sure to register for this year's Dreamforce to learn more about how technology and innovation can power your business. Join us for a global family reunion streaming live on Salesforce Plus, and check out the link to sign up. All right, so we have another exciting giveaway for all of our guests tuning in. One of our Block Party affiliate partners are our friends over at the Broccoli City Fest. Shout out to them. It's such an amazing time. I love going every year. And they've been so generous to gift us a pair of tickets to this year's event taking place right here in DC. And the winner is Siona Rogers of California. Congratulations. Be on the lookout for an email from our Salesforce team to collect your tickets. All right, my sis DJ Damo is going to set us up with some vibes as we continue to celebrate Black businesses. But before we get started, here's a video from our sponsor, Deloitte Digital. We'll see you back here for our next conversation. But for now, let's see what Deloitte has to say.
Deloitte is committed to continuing the fight for social justice and racial equality, taking a stand against the systemic bias and racism that plague our communities, workplaces, and institutions. Now more than ever, we've remained committed to driving diversity, equity, and inclusion in our organization, our profession, and society. Together as one, we will build a better future for Black, Latinx, Indigenous, LGBTQ+, and all of our diverse colleagues and communities.
everyone, and welcome to a special panel as part of the Black Business Month program that we put together at Salesforce. I'm super excited for this conversation because we're going to learn from some amazing entrepreneurs and business leaders about how they've been able to pivot their business and their strategies given the pandemic and be able to really turn crisis to creation. So that's actually the topic of our talk today, from crisis to creation, pandemic-driven business innovations. So before we get started, just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Lola Banjo. I'm a Senior Managing Director of Strategy and Innovation here at Salesforce, and I'm also the Global President of Fullforce, as well as a business owner myself. So I'm very keen and very excited about this conversation. But I'm joined by some amazing panelists, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. But my panelist today is, first of all, we have Karen Civil. She's the owner of KarenCivil.com and Live Civil. And then we have Aries T. Scales. She is a CEO and Managing Director of Walker's Legacy Foundation and Walker's Legacy. And then we have Joshua Hoskins, founder, delivery architect, and Salesforce MVP. So I'm going to kick it off to our panelists to introduce themselves. So starting with you, Karen. Karen?
Oh, hi, everyone. So CEO of Always Civil Enterprise, which is my marketing and branding company. We've had clients and companies from Hillary Clinton to Nipsey Hussle to Beats by Dre, to name a few. Also, philanthropist with my Live Civil Foundation and global ambassador for Hope for Haiti. My second book, which I'm really excited about, is going to be released on my birthday in November. So hi, everyone who is joining us for this.
So awesome to have you, Karen. You're such an accomplished woman, so it's always great to be able to hear you speak and today to have a conversation with you. And then we have Aries T. Scales. Aries, can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Well, hello. I'm Eris, and it is wonderful to be here. Thank you guys so much. I am serving in two different capacities. So I'm the CEO of Walker's Legacy Foundation, which is essentially the social impact arm of Walker's Legacy LLC. Collectively, we are inspired by the amazing trailblazer, Madam C.J. Walker, and we're committed since 2009 to creating the next generation of what we like to say are legacy makers. So women of color who are out here literally going from crisis to creation every single day, standing up businesses. And so we run accelerator programs, we do research, we produce thought-provoking content, we have our digital platform. We are really trying to bring a collective approach to inspiring, engaging, and equipping women of color entrepreneurs along their whole journey of being the best woman, the most self-made woman that they can be. And so I really look forward to sharing more about the work that we're doing, the things that we're hearing firsthand, and I think how collectively we can form solutions and advance solutions to keep this generation of entrepreneurs thriving.
I love that. I mean, your resume is incredible. So it's no surprise to me that you have such an esteemed role at the Walker's Foundation and Legacy. So super excited to learn from you and hear from you as well. And then last but certainly not the least, we have Joshua Hoskins. Joshua, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Joshua. Been in the Salesforce ecosystem for over a decade in different roles. I've been a customer, I've been a consultant. I've also been a product director. I've lived on a couple countries in my lifetime so far, and I just love everything Salesforce. So I built a business, been going strong for about 4 years now.
I love that. Thank you, Joshua, for being a part of this. So why are we here? Everyone knows that the past year presented entrepreneurs and business owners with especially difficult challenges. However, with those challenging circumstances came opportunities for reinvention and innovation. Our panel today will explore the various ways in which entrepreneurs can turn unique and unprecedented setbacks into unique and unprecedented successes. I love that. From navigating the pandemic to pursuing your passion, these lessons on how to navigate the unexpected will inspire all. So I'm so excited to dive in, and I have a lot to learn from you all as well. So I'm going to start with Karen, actually. So 2020 threw us all for a loop. Nobody expected it.
and force us to pivot in so many different ways. For instance, we're having this conversation virtually, which would have been in person. Karen, can you talk to us about the impact of the pandemic and the impact on your business and your clients and how you were able to pivot? Many of us many in the room follow your social channels, and to the public, it looked like you actually did not miss a beat at all throughout the pandemic. But I want to hear from you. What's the real tea? How were you able to accomplish that?
Oh man, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie to you, Lola. At first, I was confused. I just didn't know what was gonna happen because at first, you know, when I think of like my events are usually planned in like the quarters. So at first, when they were talking about the pandemic, they said, okay, it's gonna be 3 weeks. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be 3 weeks. I can shut down what I have for 3 weeks. But at that time, I was doing a lot of like engagements. So I'd be on a plane maybe 5 different times out the week, 5 to 6 different times. So I'm like, okay, at this point now I can't travel. These events are getting rescheduled. But on top of that, events that I was curating for talent that I work with, it was just very questionable, a lot of things up in the air. But then once we got past that first month and I realized the climate of who our president is and how we're not going to get real answers on anything, it honestly felt like we had a substitute teacher. So at this point, and we know we don't listen to those in school. So I was like, at this point, I can either just be on this, like, you know, namaste, find peace and time for myself, sit on Twitter, seem confused, just keep doing these IG lives. And that's when it hit me. When I started to see those, I said, now all we have to do to communicate with one another, because we cannot be outside, is we are going to be on our mobile devices all the time. So now I sat and brainstormed with myself and I wrote out the various companies, apps, and different things that I can reach out to, work with, because I'm like, at this point, events and things are not going to happen. A lot of things are going to have to be streamed through the phone. So let me just jump into this now, have conversation, create decks, start the calls. COVID was a twofold, well, really a threefold. The first was figuring out, like you mentioned, Lola, was that pivot. And seeing the synergies and everything now going to mobile devices, everybody's on IG, Clubhouse, all these other things. So finding branding synergies and integrations there for clients and brands. And then the second thing was that philanthropy give back area, because this was a very hard time. There were people who was not as fortunate to be able to make that transition. So just making sure certain businesses will still be able to operate. And things like that. And the third was a big thing is like understanding this world. A problem too was a lot of people just was like, I want this world to go back to the way it was. Right. We have to understand like it's never going to go back. Right. This shift and this change happened for a reason. So it's like making sure you take the time to center and realize your business is never going to be the same. How you operate is never going to be the same. And figuring out what that pivot is for your business on a personal and brand level, figuring out new core values and things to be in the climate we are in now. So yeah, it was just those three folds. I know that was a bit long-winded, but
no, I love everything you said. And I love you acknowledge that. I mean, all of us kind of had the same reaction when it first started, right? We thought it was going to be short, but then, you know, we had this major freak out moment when we just like, oh my gosh, it's continuing on. But then you were able to pull together and just say, okay, you know, this is how I'm going to pivot, and this is how I'm going to embrace this new virtual reality that we're in, right? You know, and make something out of it. And then you were able to grow your book of business to be so much more significant than you're already a powerhouse, but then to grow it even bigger. And then, you know, incorporate the giving back element. So I love what you said. You know, it's okay to support the larger organizations, but, you know, we must also pay attention to the grassroots ones, the ones that are doing work on the ground. So it's important to kind of think in both ways as well. So kudos to you for everything that you're able to accomplish over the last year and a half. I think it's certainly inspiring to a lot of other business owners as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Eris, you embody the essence of Madam C.J. Walker, who's one of my idols, and her legacy. So it is only right that you're leading the Walker Legacy Foundation. Your COVID-19 impact report focused on the impact of the pandemic on multicultural small business owners. Can you share with us what you found through those surveys and of these business owners? How have they been able to pivot in the face of the pandemic to remain open and to thrive, to continue to thrive?
Absolutely. So I say, if there's one woman that I would love to embody, it would definitely be Madam CJ Walker. She's just a trailblazer. And I knew about her, but it's like the more I learn about her, I'm just totally blown away. And it's been interesting because being in this role and and being in this role at this time has revealed some real, just enlightened me in such a different way. One of the things that's come up over and over throughout the course of these past several months is just how Black women in the midst of crisis, in the midst of economic downturn, somehow always figure out a way to continue to thrive. And I was reading a post that said, we're innovators out of necessity. And so when we did the COVID-19 impact study, there were many things that came out that we expected, right? To hear about access to capital and the impact of, technology. And we're talking about the pivot. Technology became to the forefront faster than ever before. We always knew it was important to our business operations, but now literally, if you are not utilizing it, you will have your doors closed, right? And so 90% of the women shared that they were concerned that their doors would be closed by the end of the year. So even though we were opening businesses at a faster rate, even though we have a history of being sustainable, even in the midst of economic downturn, the Great Depression, the big crash that happened under Obama in 2008, even now with the pandemic, there were still some things that continue to surface with regards to, I like to say, preparedness, disruption, and wellness. That I wasn't expecting to hear. So we were seeing that many of our respondents were saying, hey, due to supply chain disruption, we're really losing business. And which was great that we had so many who were part of a supply chain, with working with corporations, working with government, but that impact with those contracts being less was having a significant impact on them. So that disruption and opportunity, but also, which I really couldn't believe, was that many were sharing, more than 70%, that they did not have a disaster preparedness plan. And this is something that I know that many of us probably weren't even thinking about or considering because it just wasn't top of mind. And then so often we have our nose down for running the day-to-day of just trying to keep our doors open. Who's thinking about buying business interruption insurance or having a disaster preparedness plan, which is really important because now we're potentially coming up right on this second wave and we don't know what's going to happen. We kind of think we know, but we don't know, right? And so it's even more important that these things that we had to put on the back burner because we thought that we couldn't get to them, that we get to them now. And then the third one being wellness. I couldn't believe how open and how much at the forefront our women were saying, you know what, I'm tired. Because so often we get called, strong Black women and women this and girl power. And I go, look, right, I am strong, but that does not mean that you can put everything on my back. It does not mean that I do not need resources and a lifeline. And so we're being a lot more vocal about what that means and what that feels and what that looks like for us. And so it's great that that's coming out and coming up in conversations around business, because your mental health, your self-care, all of that is going to impact your bottom line. And so for people to think that any of those things are separate from, collecting your coin, I think we're learning it is not. So a lot of what we're looking to do now, particularly with our accelerators that we run and our business intensives, is that we're starting to infuse more of that grounding, more of that centering, in addition to our economic and our entrepreneurship curriculum. So we're revamping and revising because we want to make sure, again, that we're addressing women as the whole woman to run these business and not just walking down the lane of being the CEO and the founder, but then, you're going home crying in the dark to yourself. So that report was an eye-opener. And I almost thought when we released it in June, the end of June, I was like, man, it's coming out late because we're on the other side of this, but not knowing that we were really coming onto the other side of a second wave. And so it's been great that so many, businesses and foundations and business owners are looking to that report and stepping up to help us to begin to implement some of those solutions to address that. But yeah, we're innovators out of necessity. We got pushed out of jobs. And then the other piece too is that many of us are reevaluating our personal and our professional, and understanding that there's not necessarily a separation between the two, right? And so when you have an opportunity now to come out and create a new legacy, or to create a business for yourself and your family, and to create a culture that you want to see fostered that you probably didn't get in the workforce, we are also seeing a lot more women stepping up to the plate to make that happen.
Yeah, I have to say women and Black women. I'm a little biased. We are so amazing, so amazing. I love everything that you're saying. And also just that emphasis on the fact that we're prioritizing our wellness. And, people are not afraid to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I am affected. I've seen a rise of that, and I love it. I love, hearing people say, you know what, I am human and I need to take a step back. And this has affected me. Let me focus on my mental health, and let me focus on my wholeness as a person and my mental well-being, so it's super important. And then you mentioned disaster preparedness. I have to say personally, I launched my business in October 2019, and it was doing great. It's a product startup. And you mentioned the global supply chain as well. I produced my bags in Italy. I did not think of having a disaster preparedness plan. I never thought that Italy was going to shut down just, 4 months after launching. So I was just like, whoa, I had all my working capital tied up in production. And it was just like, so I learned a lot from everything that happened as well. So I love the fact that you mentioned that global supply chain, all those dependencies, that we did not expect, so that's why it's important to be prepared. So it's such a great segue into the other question I actually wanted to ask. When we talk about small businesses, we don't often hear about the disaster preparedness plan, of them having that. I would love to hear from, we just heard from you, Eris. I would love to hear from you, Joshua, as well. Please talk to us about what this kind of plan looks like. What does a disaster preparedness plan look like, and why should small business owners have one? And how is it integral to really being able to turn around that setback and turn it into a success for small businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to be able to sustain. We all build companies based upon delivering innovation or something different, or unique interest, and making something better. Some of us the world, some of us processes, and that plan is so important. And when I was one of the people that didn't have a quite big plan, but I think in slide decks. So as soon as there's an emergency, I opened Google Drive and began to put some slide decks, and I thought to myself, what should I really focus on? And the first thing you want to focus on is people. You want to focus on the people who work with you, your colleagues, your subcontractors, and just make sure you understand everyone's well-being. Also your customers. So immediately what we started doing is reaching out to all of our customers. We put one slide deck. How can we help you? The pandemic is here. How can we help you? Is there anything we can do? And unfortunately, we saw some of our B2C customers slip off as their customers were going into different directions or not having a need for that service anymore. But fortunately, our business customers was like, we're plowing through, we're seeing more demand. But it was about putting a plan together, a success plan, that contract between us and the customer about what the next month looked like, not only for them, but for us, so that we can begin to focus on our cash flow. What was that forecast going to look like in 3 months, in 10 months? Where did we need to do? And what did we need to do with our people? Do we need to be able to focus people into different areas? It was such a complex situation, but really thinking about people first and making sure that we took care of people's well-being, even our customers and their family was definitely. Worrying about cash this second. You got to have money in the bank. You got to know what's coming. You got to know if you can pay your bills, if you can meet payroll. So that was pretty much a focus for us. And then last is about the time. People talk about being a pandemic, and yeah, we lost about 2 customers because they were consumer-based customers, but being able to have a little bit less to focus on, like one less customer to focus on, allowed us to create more capacity for our team to work on internal projects. So what we're able to do is turn that capacity that we had, instead of working for those customers, onto those internal projects that you can never get to because your customers are more important. So that was really our three-pronged approach to having that business plan, not only for ourselves, but with our customers, to really understand and forecast what the future may look like for us.
Yeah, I love that, Joshua. And I love the fact that you mentioned the two customers that you lost. You didn't really see it as a loss. You were able to actually leverage that into pivoting that time and effort into something that you had put to the side before. So, and I have to say, what you mentioned about people, it resonates so strongly. Shameless plug, but it's really genuine. Salesforce really did a lot to really support its people during the pandemic. I recall this time last year, all the different series that we were able to quickly put together, whether it's Be Well, which is like a way for us to plug into mental wellness, and just hear from experts talking about different ways to be well, our Leading for Change series, and just, having these all hands that we actually started having, and all these different ways to kind of support the employee, the employees and customers. It was so heartwarming to be a part of an organization. I'm not trying to plug Salesforce. I know you all already love Salesforce, but I love the fact that you mentioned that, because it's not just relevant to the small businesses, it's relevant to also large enterprises as well. But especially for small businesses, really focusing on the people, on your customers, and making sure that they're well. How you were able to do that, Joshua, was very impressive. So, and that actually builds more trust in your customers, because you actually care about them. And like you said, it's not just about the bottom line in terms of dollars and cents. It's really about the totality of the business and, all the stakeholders and the relationship. It's so important to note that. So thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear from you, Karen. Do you have a disaster preparedness plan? What does yours look like, and why should other business owners think about one as well?
My disaster preparedness plan, it did not include a pandemic. I'm gonna be honest, it didn't include, I wasn't thinking like this. I was thinking more along the lines of, I know I shouldn't call it a disaster, but I was thinking more of the lines of like pregnancy and taking a break and what that looks like and things like that. So I did prepare myself for that when it comes to like a 3-month, a 6-month, 9 months, or a year sabbatical, or whatever the case may be. If work starts to slow down, if I choose to step away, if I don't have as much clients as possible, and things like that. But it was about a couple years ago, which made me start to pivot. Which made me start to pivot and change certain way I was thinking of stuff. Is Barack Obama had this, I wish I could remember the year. He did this interview where he talked about, he was like, you never know if a virus or something may come. And that sat with me that night. I was like, why the hell would he say that? Like, it was before COVID, everything. And I was like, why would he say that? I'm already in Los Angeles, so they make you get every type of insurance possible. For your business. So I started to think, I'm like, okay, what if, God forbid, like, you can't go to a stadium, you can't go to a thing, what's going to be the next? So I kind of had my one sheet or PDF kind of created for social and more of the gaming aspect. I started to put together and just having on the side, but to go back and kind of just reel in what you said, what you asked, is a big thing for me is just making sure I have like a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, and a year, just in case from a financial aspect that, I can still handle my overhead, payroll, my personal finances, family at times, you have people who still depend on you, and I can still go and get, I love pricey French fries at times, knowing I can still be able to get those $16 fries. So that was a big thing. But a lot of things, I know this pandemic hasn't been the best for people, but I say it's been a growing experience, where now we know we might be on a second to third wave, whatever this Delta is now created to something else. So now more than ever, I feel like we can use this as a learning lesson and figuring out, okay, we know we might be going back indoors, something might pivot. I mean, things may go back to how it was. How can I strategically change my business, make sure I'm financially okay, and I can survive and be held above water?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I mean, so many lessons, that came out of this last year. We have to be prepared for the unknown. We have to be prepared.
Absolutely.
However outlandish it sounds, like, let's just prepare for it. Make sure everyone that's listening, if you're a small business owner, you absolutely have to have a disaster preparedness plan.
Can I do a shameless plug? Because prior to this role, I served as the Chief Service Officer for the District of Columbia. And as the Chief Service Officer, we literally oversaw working with the community to create disaster plans and emergency response plans. And so I know we have business owners who are probably listening going, I don't even know where I would start, right? How do you do that? And there's what they're called state service commissions in every single state. And usually in a lot of the governor's offices or mayor's office, there is an agency for free that will work with you to put in place an emergency response or disaster preparedness plan. So, and FEMA has a lot of resources too. So what Karen described is fantastic, right? Like, that's one type of plan, but when these disasters, pandemics, and things of that sort hit, it's a different type of plan. And so I would just encourage people to look up their state service commission or look at FEMA's website for some free tools.
I love that. That's free game. I hope everyone's writing that down.
Great resource.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Eris. Joshua, I'm actually going to turn this question to you. So what advice can you offer to emerging small business owners and entrepreneurs in establishing those systems that can withstand a crisis, whatever the crisis may be? I don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. Hopefully there's no more crazy crises like the pandemic, but whether it's a global pandemic or things related to just unanticipated changes to their internal business structures, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, and this is a freebie, y'all. So this is one of the hacks that turned out to actually be a beautiful thing. So before the pandemic, I was a digital nomad, lived in India for 4 years, Dublin before that, Singapore for that, London for. So I've lived in a bunch of places and love that lifestyle. I racked up approximately 600,000 miles in 1 year. I used to take a plane, like I was on a taxi cab, and that was my lifestyle. And one of the things that this pandemic has taught me is how many years I may have shaved off of my life by just going on an airplane, and that was easy for me, right? But it's so comfortable to like stay at home for 6 months at a time now, and not have to worry about clearing your calendar, getting on a plane. But I still miss that. And one of the things that we as a services company, we have lots of tools. We pay for all the newest tools because they help us get our job done most efficiently and things like that. So we have an opportunity to have a line of credit at a credit card, which is a loyalty brand. And so we have all of our SaaS monthly charges on one credit card. And so we just pay it off monthly, and we'll say, oh, we're going to do that. We're going to do it for 2 months, and then we forget to cancel it. So my hack for all of y'all is you're able to actually request a new credit card to be sent to you with a new credit card number, which essentially stops all of those reoccurring charges, and you can selectively choose which ones to renew. And that saved us so much more hassle, because a lot of time they're on different credit cards. You don't know which is going where, but all the time it's on one credit card that we use. And because it's a loyalty credit card with travel points, that's just super amazing. So even though I had to like break away and cut costs back for all those tools that we really weren't using, that we didn't need, now all of the funds that I was spending and the ones that I did renew, they're all accumulating loyalty points for me. So I was able to just take a quick break to Hawaii last week on points, because I had the credit card. And so that is that is how I was able to sort of turn that into an opportunity. Yes, I had to like peel back, but I still got points for those purchases and for those SaaS monthly charges. And I was able to travel on them discreetly.
Yeah, I love that. All this free game. I love it. I could talk to y'all like literally for hours, but I know we're getting to the end of our conversation here. So I want to wrap up by just going around the room, around the horn, and just, if you were to share just some bits of advice for any small business owners or entrepreneurs that are listening today, the ones that were able to pivot and the ones that may be still struggling to kind of figure out how to land on their feet given the pandemic, what would you all share? Just, some words of encouragement for our community out there. So whoever wants to start, feel free to jump in.
I'll go first. You know what? Just keep calm and cool, collected. I have a smaller team, but I know that a lot of the team was looking at me to figure out like what's going on, and I had many sleepless nights. Like, what are we gonna do? Or are we doing everything we possibly can? Am I thinking of everything? As an entrepreneur, you get stuck in your brain. Like, are you doing everything right? Super easy to be able to do that. But we prevailed. We put together plans. We had brainstorming meetings, and I just think it's important to be cool, calm, and collected, and understand that the whole world is doing this just as your business is doing it. Seriously, like the whole world, reimagined overnight, over a couple months, how they might do business with the plate glass and the windows and things like that. It's just truly a miracle to understand how quickly we change our tools and our processes and how we work with all of our customers. And everyone's on that journey. Some are longer than others, but just be strong for your team and move forward cautiously.
Cool, calm, collected. Remember that you're not alone. We're all in this together, as cliche as it may sound, but we're all trying to figure it out together. So, there's strength in that for sure. Thank you, Joshua. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Karen and Eris?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Eris.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, girl. You have me here the whole time. Like, yes. Go ahead. Let me get your last job.
Mine's a little cliche-ish too, but it's not. But I am saying it because I'm honestly, and I mean it, like living it. And someone said to me recently, like, because I dyed my hair blonde, they're like, "Are you going through something?" And I was like, "Yeah, this amazing journey called life." You not, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm going through. And I'm going through it with such intentionality now. Right. I got a coach a year ago. And one of the things that she had me do, and I didn't also share, I also own, in addition to running it, like this organization, my own business. Like, so when I started, and she had me do this exercise of really looking at where I was putting my time and my energy. And it was, more of this, less of that. And so I'm sharing that with, all the businesses, particularly our Black businesses that are tuning in, because we often say we don't have time to do something. And you have time because you're doing something, right? So take this time, as painful as it is, business may be slower, you may be trying to figure out where that next coin is coming, but it is we're not going to get another opportunity, I don't think, like this, to really step back and really, really reevaluate who we are and how we're showing up. And I did that exercise. And when I did that, it was like all this stuff. She was like, "You're a master manifester." It just started happening. And I'm not lying, right? So I want to encourage everyone that's tuned in to really go through that exercise of looking at where and how they're spending their time and their resources, because you might, instead of, maybe additional money is not coming in, but there might be things that you're spending on that you don't even need to be spending on. And by the time you run through that exercise, like, oh my God, I'm saving myself an additional $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Also taking the time to go back and dust off some education, right? So, you have been running your business, you've been doing the grind and the hustle, but there's programs like Walker's Legacy, our accelerators that are creating curriculum to make sure that we're addressing and supporting businesses where they are today in this current environment. And so it's one thing to be running and operating your business in this kind of pre-COVID state, but what do those skills and what does that network and what do those opportunities look like now during this COVID and kind of pandemic state that we continue to remain in? So I think it's really important to eliminate these distractions, get real clear about how you want to visualize and define your path forward. And then the last thing is just go off, right? Like, you're already doing it. There's nothing that you cannot do. Don't play small. Don't be afraid. Every single day I'm blown away. I see these little 20-year-old popping up with a new something. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, she just came out the womb and she got this global brand, like, they are getting it. They're not scared, right? And neither should we we put the time in, we've got the credentials, we've got the credibility, we've got the resistance and the resilience. Like, this is it. And so we've got to put into ourselves.
Use the time to figure out what you want to do. This time, the downtime, or whatever, it can definitely be your chance to pivot. Don't do that thing that to keep you happy all that time. Like, use this time for like, what do I want? What do I want? And then just go for it.
That's it.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Karen, take us home.
Last thing I will say is honestly, give yourself grace during this time. I feel like there have been so many people, we have been harder on ourselves, especially our mental stability, not being able to have fellowship, hug people, see family members, just go out and feel like all your senses, which is maybe go to the beach, sit out by the park, or whatever the case may be. So the most important thing is honestly give yourself grace when it comes to your business, when it comes to your family life, when it comes to your personal life. So if there's a day where you're like, okay, I want to put all my effort and time into figuring out what's next, you can spend the next day just sitting in silence and, figuring out what happens for you after this unknown. But we are, I feel like, the hardest on ourselves, understanding the importance of your mental stability and wellness right now. And while we have this time where we don't have to always be in our cars or in an office, and you can work from your personal space, wherever it may be, just take that time to, like, if it's adding an app to help with your manifestations, to help you when you just want to find maybe 10 or 20 minutes to meditate, just make sure you're setting that time for yourself to do some sort of breathing exercise. Like for myself, every night I ask myself 3 questions and I record it, because years from now, when my children and family are asking me, what was COVID, or how did you go through it? I'm going to edit all the videos. I do this every day. I'm going to edit all the videos together, and they get to see it. So there'll be days where they're good. There'll be days where I'm sad, or whatever the case may be. I'm just having a brutal, honest conversation with myself to help me hold myself accountable, especially when it comes to my emotions, how I'm showing up, and things of that nature. So just make sure you are giving yourself grace and understand we are in a very different climate right now. Nothing really is, makes sense. And we are living in the unknown. So just give yourself that grace, pat yourself on the back, because it's a blessing to get out of bed every day. So
exactly. And we're doing it together.
Yes.
I love that. That is so beautiful. That is such a great way to wrap up this conversation. I mean, everyone that's tuned in, all the business owners, entrepreneurs, whether you're aspiring, whatever it is, I hope you were able to take something away from this conversation today. You are more powerful or more capable than you believe yourself to be. So just be cool, calm, collected, give yourself grace, allow yourself to feel the emotions, but get back out there, get back up, and just know that you started this for a reason, because you're able to finish it. So just make sure that you're cutting yourself slack, and you're empowering yourself, go back to school, like Eris said, get educated and use this time wisely, whatever position you may be in. I wish you all amazing success, and thank you so much for tuning in to this conversation today. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Eris. I want to hug all of you guys, but really appreciate the time that you spent with us today and just learning from you. So thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in. That is it.
Thank you, Lola, Karen, Eris, and Joshua for conversation, particularly on how to take advantage of some of the emerging trends that are coming up for entrepreneurs wherever they are in their journey. All right, folks, we have one more pair of tickets to Broccoli City Fest on deck, and the winner is... Congratulations to Jasmine Bush from out here in Maryland. Be on the lookout for an email from our Salesforce team to collect your tickets. Now up next is a conversation with 2 iconic, groundbreaking women charting their own paths. This special edition #Boss Talks features actress, author, comedian, entrepreneur, and one of my faves, Yvonne Orji. Tune in to hear Yvonne and Ebony's tips for building confidence, taking risks, and letting your authenticity be your guide. We'll be back in a few minutes for our last conversation of the day, and then a special performance by the one and only Grammy-nominated rapper, DMV's own actor and poet, Wale. But before we get to it, we want to give a shout out to our media partner, Black Enterprise. Much appreciation and gratitude to the editor-in-chief, Derek Dingle, and to the entire Black Enterprise family. Thank you for your work. Now, check out this incredible lineup of past and upcoming events.
Not about the storm, but how you dance with the rain. Don't beat yourself up, just rise through your pain. Keep moving forward, don't be afraid of who you are. Anything is possible, so shine like a star.
Hope y'all can hear me out there. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C. with my sister Gia Peppers.
Cute face, chubby waist, thick legs in shape, rump shaking both ways, make you do a double take. Planet rocker, showstopper, flow proper, head knocker, beat scholar, tail dropper. Who my thing is? I'm a Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, Blue Medina, always beaming, rag top, chrome pipes, blue lights out of sight. Long wind, sold in, say it again, sold in, make that money, throw it in, booty bouncing, go ahead. Work me, work, work, work me, work, work, work me, work, work, work me, do it right. Work me, work, work, work me, work, 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 work me. You know. I reminisce.
everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Boss Talks, a series that features candid career conversations with people who are changing the game in their respective fields. Today's episode is all about taking control of your career. For me, this topic is really rooted in intention and empowerment. It's knowing your values, it's trusting your instincts, and owning your role as a CEO of your own life. Now listen, I know that some of this is way easier said than done. So today we're going to offer some tips for how to work these muscles to help you build the skills you need to become a boss. It's like bodybuilding, but boss building. Now, speaking of bosses, I'm really excited about today's guest. You may have seen her low-key striving on HBO's hit series Insecure, or cracking up a live audience in her stand-up Mama, I Made It. Please join me in welcoming the amazing actor and comedian, Yvonne Orji. Yvonne, welcome to Boss Talks.
Hi, Ebony. Thank you so much for having me. I was like, you better, what did you say? I was about to trademark everything you said. I was like, boss. Okay, cool. I'm here for it.
That's right. This boss is on Boss Talks. Yvonne, we have so much to talk about. Let's dive right in with my first question. I love that we're talking about taking control of your career because I think you've done exactly that. I would love for you to just take us back to the early days of what made you want to pursue entertainment and how did you get your start?
Girl, it wasn't me that made me want to pursue entertainment. I have a new book out called Bamboozled by Jesus, how God tricked me into the life of my dreams. And I say he tricked me because I thought I was going to be a doctor. I was going full throttle. I majored in bio, have a master's in public health. And I was like, I know I don't like blood, but this is all I know to do. So I was going to be a horrible doctor. Let me just preface with that. But it was the thing that coming from Nigerian immigrant parents, like that was it. That was your only option. And in 2006, I heard the voice of God tell me to do something else. He actually told me to do comedy. And I was like, I don't think you know my parents. Like they have a mean backhand. Like that's not how, that's not going to end well. And I heard him say, I'm not going back and forth with you. Either you're going to learn to trust me or you're not. And it was at that moment where I did take my life into my hands to a certain degree and say, all right, well, I already knew that being a doctor wasn't it for me. I didn't know what the alternative was. And this scares the crap out of me. But I'd rather do this scared than not do it at all and not know what I could have been. Mm-hmm. And so I did comedy. That was back in 2006, moved to New York in 2009, moved to LA in 2012, and then booked Insecure in 2015. So it was a grind, to get to the point where you guys actually saw me, but I'm so grateful for every second of it.
I love that you talked about that grind because we really like to dig into the hustle on Boss Talks because we know that rarely does success happen overnight. So what are your tips for staying motivated through the ups and the downs of building your career?
Absolutely. For me, for sure, it was my faith because I was like, I know that this is a God dream. I don't have any connections. I only have common sense, to be honest. I was like, I have common sense and faith. And, along the way, the things that I did were I stayed ready so I wouldn't have to get ready. So whatever staying ready looked like for me, it was like I had grace and favor for where I was at. So a lot of times we try to be perfect. It's like, I don't want nobody to see it until it's perfect. It's like, well, you got a morsel that somebody can work with. And all they need to do is be able to see a spark for them to be like, okay, at least she's doing something. Let me help her. And I had people come alongside me and help me when there was a spark. Now, be excellent at every level. Even if it's not perfect, you can still be excellent. So I think there's a difference. And so, I remember somebody who helped me when I was in New York and realizing I need to make a shift. So, I'll be a little bit more specific. I was definitely that person that was super optimistic. I know today, don't mean no tomorrow. And if they told me no, I asked the wrong person. That was my MO. That was my motto. Like, I wish you would tell me no. That's my faith activation. I actually love when people tell me no. I'm like, oh, that's not even my fight no more. Hey, God, where my angels at? They need to power up because it's on you now. I was just so ridiculous to believe that if God told me I was going to do something, it's going to happen. So, because one of us is going to have to be a liar, and I know it's not him. So what are we talking about? And so I would strategically just show up places. They would be like, hey, no, this is it. We're not taking any more applications. I was like, cool. Hey, but just in case, here's mine. Like it didn't matter to me. And it was just that dogged determination, because the worst they can still say is no. And even it was like, that's the worst that can happen. And so for me, I wasn't afraid of a no. And so I would push past them and I would go forth. And of course, when you show up, when no one's expecting you to show up, somebody somewhere will use their power, their ability, and their influence on your behalf. And so I would show up places and they were like, and we don't usually do this, but let me see if they're in to talk to you. Like that would happen all the time. And so then when I was in New York and I was living in Harlem, I was on Facebook and I met this guy who literally sounded like the male version of me. He was Nigerian. His brother was a doctor, so he was a black sheep because he was a TV writer. And I was like, hey, I feel like I know you. Our stories are similar. How can you help me? And he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I had gone out on faith. And at the time I was hosting weddings for a living because I was trying to be a stand-up, but stand-ups are broke. Okay. They don't make any money when they first come out. And so I had to figure out how I was going to survive with a master's degree, because Sally Mae was like, but I still want my money back. Okay. I still need you to pay for these degrees. And I was like, oh, this chick is wild. So anyway, I was hosting weddings and I realized, I was like, you know what? I know the ceiling that I'm going to hit hosting weddings. I know it. Like it is what it is. This is my packages. This is the highest I'll get paid. This is what this looks like. I don't know what it looks like to be in LA. I don't know what it looks like to try and audition and take my career to the next level. So I actually took off hosting for 8 weeks. I just picked some arbitrary dates and I was like, I'm gonna go to LA. I don't know nobody there, but I'm gonna figure it out. And you know what? It was a risk because it was the height of wedding season. This is how I make my money. This is how I make my living. But I was willing to take a L to go back in order to go forward. And a lot of times people are so afraid because they're like, I'm only going to make strategic steps when it makes sense. This did not make sense. A lot of times reason and logic keeps us stuck in comfortability, to be honest, if we're being honest. So many people have dreams. So many people have businesses in them. So many people have books in them. So many people have a vision that they're just like, but I don't see step 15. Well, you haven't even done step 2. Like you can't see step 15 because God's going to show that to you at step 8. But if you're waiting for all the lights to be green, baby, you missed it. And so anyway, so Mike, I reached out to him and I was like, these are the dates I'm coming to LA. I'm willing, with a master's degree, I was like, I'm willing to be a shoe shiner, a PA. I don't know what jobs are available, but the way up is sometimes down. And in this popcorn generation, I call it the Orville Redenbacher generation. Everybody wants to be a boss, but nobody wants to be a PA. Like, it's like, okay, hey, listen, I believe boss status is available for everybody, but at some point that boss was also an employee. So, the pain of the dues has kind of been a thing that people don't want to do anymore. And it's fine. And I hope it works out for you. And I'm sure it will. However, like there might be some sweat equity required. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing what you need to do in order to get to where you need to be. And so anyway, because I had these dates blocked out, which I was like, I'm losing money, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to gain experience. Mike was like, oh, okay, she's serious. And then I ended up sending him a DVD of my comedy set that I had done like at some club. DVDs are these things, or these discs that people used to send out. Don't worry about it.
Way back when. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, y'all can Google it. They're like in the line with floppy disks, but like you didn't have to blow on them. Don't worry about it. And so Mike played my DVD, and because I had something, and what's so crazy is when I go back and it's like, I wasn't polished. I wasn't the me you see now, but where I was then was enough to get his attention. And a lot of times we bypass our enoughness because we're looking for perfection, or we're looking for something that we don't have and we won't get until we do what we are supposed to do with what we have now. And so Mike was able to take the DVD, take my dates, and before I knew it, he came back to me and was like, I got an unpaid internship in a writer's room if you want it. And I was like, I want it. I didn't know what a writer's room was, y'all. I was like, am I a writer? I thought I was trying to be a comedian and an actress, but okay. And turns out the day the writer's room started was the day I had already pre-booked my flight to arrive in LA. Wow. So it's like that opportunity wasn't there when I pressed send, but it was there when I needed it to be there. And so sometimes you have to get out the boat and start walking for your answer to come. And those are boss moves. Those are the moves that there's no school for it. It's just intuition. I'd rather do it than not do it. I'd rather take a risk than risk living in mediocrity. Like, I mean, like it's all, the boss moves really aren't like, yo, they got $1 million deal. The boss moves are moves that are made when nobody's watching.
That's right. That is so right. Yvonne, you're such a talented storyteller across so many mediums, whether it's comedy or acting or writing. And I love that you're telling the story authentically about the hustle. You know, you call it the Orville Redenbacher, I call it entitleitis, this generation that doesn't want to put in any work. There's like, you know, anyway, we can talk about that later. But, you know, one of the things I really heard you talk about that really came through in this is that you had to take up space. You had to own your own self and take up your space and just go forward. But that can be really hard for people, especially women and women of color. So what tips do you have for just taking up space and owning your own journey?
I say you have to be your most authentic self. A story I love, and I'll never get tired of telling it. I remember when I did finally move to LA, and, you know, my brand of comedy is one where, you know, I don't curse in my sets, you know, and that was a decision I made when I first got in here. And I'll never forget this comic being like, I mean, that joke would be so much funnier if you just dropped the F-bomb, because real talk, the way you go, you're really not going to be able to break out of a very niche markets. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I don't know what to tell you, but you don't know my story, you don't know my life. And I just remember being like, well, I don't think God brought me here to fail on a technicality. So good luck with that. Cut to Chris Rock calls and has me open up for him on his Total Blackout tour, where I'm performing at the Kodak Theater, Madison Square Garden, and Barclays in front of 17,000 people. I come back to LA, same comedians like, hey, you know, what I love about it is a win for you is a win for all. Nah, player, this is your win. This is not your win, but God bless you and thank you for playing. And so it's that thing of being your most authentic self. The thing that I have always been is I call myself a joy defender. Mm-hmm. I am infiltrating spaces and making sure like pure, authentic, wholehearted joy follows me everywhere I go. And that's strategic. That's not because like that's my gimmick. It's like, no, I like people. I like having a good time. I like smiling. I don't like stress. I don't like drama. And so that's what I lead with. And you could be like in Hollywood, everybody wants the opposite, but you know what? When your time is up, when your number is called, the thing that you are is the thing that people will want. When I was selling my show that Oprah Winfrey and David Oyelowo are executive producing, which is called First Gen, which is being developed at Disney Plus, I'll never forget networks, platforms. Well, I mean, it's really cool, but is there a way to make it more grittier, more edgier? Is it, you know, it's sexier maybe? And I was like, nah, that's not the show. But do you want it or not? And I'll never forget when the pandemic hit, everybody was like, you know what, or even before the pandemic, when the Me Too movement hit, they were like, you know what we love about the show is that it's such a family show. You know, it's really wholesome. You know, you can watch it with multiple generations. And I was like, so if I'd have changed my vision just to get it sold when y'all wanted something more grittier, more edgier, like the times would have made it fail because I wasn't my most authentic self. But because I stuck to, no, I really want this show to be a thing that brings families together, communities together, like things you like, almost like TGI Friday. I don't know what age group I'm talking about, but there was a whole series of family sitcoms back in the 90s where you can watch with the whole family. Is a family matter. There's a guy named Steve Urkel. Don't worry about it. Again, Google that. And cut to, because so many women were being violated by men in positions, because then the pandemic happened and people were like, well, we don't have any family shows. That's when I sold my show. When they realized, oh my gosh, we're stuck at home with our children. What can we watch all together? And that's when Disney Plus was like, that show you have, let's go ahead and develop that. And so it's like, when you talk about the boss moves and owning your space, it really is owning the you that you are. And sometimes it takes people time to catch up to the you that you are. And you can feel in those moments, in those seasons, like, maybe I gotta pivot to what everybody else is doing. Maybe I gotta, it's like, nah, boo-boo, stay in your lane. In Nigeria, we say, face your front. Just mind your business, run your race. Because when the you that you are is needed and is necessary, you will find out, because they will call and they will be clamoring for everything that you have.
That's right. Yvonne, now sticking on this theme of storytelling, many of the stories that you've shared, whether they're personal or through the characters you've played, they are so relatable. I remember watching one of your shows and I would text my girlfriend, like, that's you, that is you. And then, especially for women and women of color, I'd love to hear your thoughts on representation and why that matters so much in your field.
I really wish we could stop saying representation matters, because I feel like the reason we keep saying it is because people don't understand that it really does. Like, it's almost like, why are we still saying this? As if like we haven't proven that it actually does matter. I mean, I am a benefactor of it and I am a seeker outer of it, right? In terms of like, when I'm looking and scrolling through networks on a Friday night as a single Black woman, but I won't be single forever. So if you're watching this and you have a couple degrees, you are
Make it happen, Boss Knows community, make it happen.
I was like, it's not about me right now, but what I am saying is, on those weekend nights where I'm looking for something, there are days and nights where I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to watch this if there's nobody that looks like me in it. No. And it's just like, how many other people like me exist? And it could be not just Black, it could be Asian Americans, it could be Indian Americans. It's representation. And the reality is, like, when you add color, any color to stuff, it makes it taste so much better. Like, I'm not being facetious. It's like jambalaya tastes good because it got all that stuff in it. It's like it ain't just regular rice. No, it got stuff in it. You want some sausage? I got you. You want some tomatoes? We got you. And so it's like representation. Whoever doesn't believe representation matters is living under a rock, or feels so entitled to their whateverness that they're like, no, my people will find it, and I don't need it. And it's just like, gone are those days, because we're not accepting that anymore. And I think the doors have been opened. The gatekeepers are no longer the only ones keeping watch. And the doors have been open. People are not only having a seat at the table, people are bringing their own table. Mm-hmm. People are like, not only am I coming in, but here's my executive producer, and here's my writer, and here's my makeup artist, and here's my, you know what I mean? It's just like, you left the door open, baby, it's a waterfall. Because now we're here, and not only are we doing well, we're doing amazing. We're changing the game. Mm-hmm. So that's in corporate America, that's in entertainment, that is in every field, even in medical field. Like, it's like when you watch shows and you're like, so ain't no Black doctor, so you ain't never met no Nigerian. You ain't never, because all the Nigerians I know are doctors. So how your show don't have a single Black person? How?
That's right. Thank you. What I love about talking to you is that your authenticity really shines through. And I know that has to be something that you've been really intentional about. And I know you've been really intentional about building your own personal brand. That's a lot about what we talk about on Boss Talks. So tell us how you've approached building your brand.
I think when you think about building, it really needs to come from the inside out. It really needs to be authentic. I say I can't be anybody but me, because I keeping up with a lie is hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't remember who I was supposed to be today because of who I told you I was yesterday. That's hard work. That's acting on another level, fam. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just easier to be myself, right? And also to be the self that I can sustain. because there's a version of you that you can put out, but it's just like, is that the best version? Because how you come out often is how you're going to need to keep up, because people don't do well with switcheroos. You know, like when companies rebrand, it is kind of like this could go either way because you know what's for this. Remember when IHOP tried to come out with burgers and we were like, no, we like pancakes. There's so many people, like, stay in your lane. We know that when the club ends at 2, we can come to you for a hot stack. I don't want no beef patties from you. And
that's Jack in the Box at 2 a.m.
All of it, but again, but to my point, you know where to go because they have branded themselves so well to be like, if you want Wendy's, you got it. If you want IHOP, you got it. If you want Jack in the Box, we got it. If you want Waffle House, you know what to expect. So when you switch it up, it's like, I don't know that I wanted that from them. I don't know, like, did I want that? I don't want that from them. And so sometimes it works. So rebranding is kind of like risky because sometimes rebranding works and it's just like, this is who we actually should have always been. And we came at you sideways, our bad. Here we are now. I hope you rock with us. But that's because finally they're being their most honest and authentic self, which is when people will be like, we do rock with you. But when you're just kind of doing it because like, what are they doing over there? I should do that too, right? I should do that. I should do that too. And it's just like, you missed it. And which is also very different from keeping up with the times, but in your own unique way, right? So I'm not talking about like, you know, the last red blockbuster. They should have, they messed up. They didn't know, they didn't see it. And so it's like, it's kind of twofold. It's like, you have to be your most authentic self, but then you also have to understand where things are going, what the shift is. And you don't want to be left out, but you also don't want to just shift for shifting's sake. Does it make sense for you to shift? Does this align with your core principles and your core values? You know, one thing that I'm doing now is I'm taking a step back. And for all the Africans, I'm going to apologize right now. I'm being less African in my life. And here's why. Being the driven, perfectionist, go-getter, it helped. It was for a season and it got me everything that you all know me for. And I'm grateful for her. That is not sustainable. That is leading to burnout. That is leading to not enjoying the journey and just being on this Ferris wheel of performance. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't, that's not what I want to subscribe to anymore. I want to do the things that I'm really actually passionate about. And hopefully by doing those things, I will continue to be successful. But whatever success looks like for me by doing less and not just trying to, our society really appreciates, you a boss, you out here, you doing all the things. Like, I see you grinding. It's like, yes, you also see them tired. You also see them stressed the heck out. And for what? And you know what? Some people are built for that race. That is some people's testimony, but everybody's testimony is not your testimony. So it's just like, you got to know what works for you. And for me in this season, I'm just like, you know what? I want to know something else. I know what that looks like. I want to know something else. And I'm just going to prove it to myself. And the beauty of life is you can always revisit. You can always change. The only thing constant in life is change. So if I try this and I'm like, all right, well, I have rested for a long time. I'm actually good. I feel more energized. I actually feel more creative. All right, now I'm going to hustle for this other thing. But it's like, you have to understand what you need for you and not what you think you need to be for everybody else.
Okay, this is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk to you about. I know a lot of us are probably nodding our head in agreement with everything you just had to say. I think by nature, so many of us are people pleasers and care so much what other people think about us. I know personally, it's taken me years and lots of coaching to overcome this tendency and to push past it. So what advice do you have for people to help them overcome other people's opinions of them?
In the book I said, opinions are like, everybody got them. Just everybody got one. You know what I mean? So good luck trying to keep up with everyone's opinion of you. And it's taken me a long time. Listen, like I said, I'm a child of immigrants. And so I know performance-based acceptance. You know, it's like, my son is a doctor at so-and-so. Oh, my daughter did this thing. She's going to Harvard. You're like, oh my God, like, you know, am I doing enough? Am I someone that my parents can talk about me to the nearest auntie at the next event? And even if you're not Nigerian, it's like, we do that to ourselves. When you swipe up, when you're on Deadline or you're on Variety or you're on Instagram, you're like, oh, that's what they doing? Oh, they got a house and a car? Dang, she on her third baby? Wow, look at her wedding. Oh man. And it's so easy to be like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Or, you know, in order to do this, I need to be this person. And the people pleasing thing is so self-sabotaging, because you will people please yourself to death. And when you're dying, the same people that you people please too are like, hey girl, oh, I can't help you right now because I gotta go to this other thing. You're like, I gave up my life for you. And then that's when you start acting crazy. And they're like, oh, I never asked you to do all that. Oh, that's on you. And that's when you want to stab everybody inside. You're like, wait, what? So the thing that I did for everybody else, they're not willing to do that back for me. Yeah, because they're like, oh, we have boundaries. We're putting them in place. We just thought you liked to do that. And it's just like, so it will rub people the wrong way. And you may lose people in your life, because what happens is people get very comfortable with the status quo that you have set. Right? You have set yourself up to be that person that's always available, that doesn't know how to say no. And people like that relationship that they have with you. And when you now shift to choosing you before others, are you different? You've changed. I don't like this. Yes, because the new you doesn't sit well with the old you that they have gotten accustomed to. Mm-hmm. And as long as you are giving, people will always be taken.
That's right.
You will find your tribe when you withhold, and not just for withholding's sake, but because you are prioritizing yourself. And they're like, girl, I get it. All good. Cool. Can we actually help you with something? You know what I mean? When you just take a moment to evaluate, one, when you have asked for help, because people pleasing really stems from this cloak of false righteousness that we have. Like, I want to be the one that's needed, and I want to be seen as the one that's able to do everything. And that's actually based off a deficit. Why? Do you feel like your value is only attached to what you're doing? Because what if you stop doing? You're still valuable. But you have to know that, and you have to recognize, like, if I did nothing else, I'm an amazing friend, I'm an amazing employee, I'm an amazing, like, you have to get comfortable with the you that you are, that isn't killing yourself and self-sabotaging yourself for other people. And when you get to that point, you can also say, when was the last time that I asked for help? When was the last time that I asked for help and believed that people would give it to me? Because it's also built on a fear. It's rooted in fear of not knowing if you're worthy, fear of not knowing if you're valuable, fear of not knowing if people will show up for you like you show up for them, fear of being needed, or not being needed anymore. Right. And so, honestly, it has taken me a long time to stop people pleasing. It has taken me a long time to, in therapy too. I'm like, let me tell you right now, if you're not in therapy, please get you a therapist. There's tons of resources. If you're an African American and you want a Black therapist, there's therapy for Black girls, Black girl therapy. There's resources, right? And I had to learn, girl, you are worthy. You are worthy as you are. You are worthy if you did nothing else. You are worth. And I had to tell myself, and actually then I had to believe it, because the inclination is to go back to what you know. It's like, oh, if I tell them no, they'll be mad at me. And then it's like, well, do you want to be friends with somebody who is mad at you for setting up a boundary that benefits you and your well-being? You have to kind of reverse the talk, because what are we talking about? Boss moves are really about taking care of yourself first and giving from your overflow. If you have nothing left to give, you're suffocating. you're actually at a deficit. How? You had an overdraft. You owe the bank money. Like, you know what I'm saying? These $35 payments are getting deducted, and sooner and how? Listen, I've been broke in my time, and you just like, yo, why are you charging me $25 when I was only down $1.05? And now I'm down $35. Make it make sense. And so it's like, that's really what you're doing to yourself when you're people pleasing from a place where you're even depleted and you don't even know it. You don't even know the source of your drainage, because you are the source of your drainage and you can't see it.
Yeah. You know, Yvonne, I want to circle back to something you were talking about a little earlier. And it really seems like being a comedian and a performer, it seems like risk taking comes with the territory. But we know anything in life comes with a risk. Any job, being a parent, getting married, you know, you name it, right? But I think it takes courage and really the ability to quiet that little voice inside that says, you can't do something, I can't ask for help. It's like the no. Yeah. So what tips do you have for us to overcome that still small voice that tells us we can't do something?
There is a chapter in my book called Fear is Food Poisoning, but Regret is Herpes. And I meant for it to be that visceral so that you could really get the full picture. Like, food poisoning sucks. Nobody wants to have food poisoning. That's the fear. But everybody who's ever had food poisoning knows you got to throw it up. You might need to go to the bathroom for a little bit. But once you do what you got to do, you come back and you're like, ooh, I feel so much better. Oh my gosh. That's fear. Fear is, oh my gosh, this thing is big. Oh my gosh, this thing is hard. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll do it. And then you push past it. You throw it up. You move the bowel. You move it out of the way. And then you're like, I'm so glad that I didn't let fear stop me, because now look at everything that came from pushing past what I couldn't see. It's the smoke screen. It's the Wizard of Oz. It's the man on the microphone. You can't do it. They're going to tell you no. It's never going to work out. Your mama told you that you would never do anything. All the voices. And it's like, But then you pull the curtain back. You're like, that's it? That's it? That's who was trying to keep me from being my best self? You better stop playing. That's fear. That's food poisoning. Now, regret, I say regret is because regret is the fear you didn't push past and are actually allowed to take root. And then one day, you know, it's cool. You can suppress it. You can live a life. And then one day you're going to see somebody living in your dream, married to your boo, living in your house, driving your car, getting the shine for your job. And there's going to be a flare up. As much as you tried to cover it up, is a flare up, because that flare up comes up in the point of now you angry, now you mad, now you know you're depressed, now you're all the things, now you're scrambling. But that's regret, and there's too many people living with regret when they could have just pushed past fear. And so when I think about that little voice, telling me no, I'm like, hold up. I in my life often when big things happen or even small things happen, I'm like, man, I would not be sitting here looking at palm trees from this house that I bought if I didn't get on that bus in 2009. That's right. If I didn't get on a bus, like it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't like if I didn't take out that $5 million loan. No, if I didn't get on a bus with nowhere to live in 2009. That's how I can look at these palm trees. That's how I can be like, man, look at God. Because I got on a bus, afraid, without options, without knowing what I was doing and where I was going to live. That is how you quiet that voice. Because when you do it enough and you find the favor and you get to the other side and you look back and you're like, man, my life is so good. I could have stopped at any moment and I would not be experiencing this.
What it sounds like to me is that you're talking about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's definitely a skill and a muscle we have to flex and get used to flexing. It just takes practice pushing past that fear. Is that what you're saying?
And fear is so real. The thing, I'm not trying to minimize it because, you know, for some people, they're like, yeah, but I have a kid now and I have to look out for them and I have to provide, or, you know, I have to take care of my aging parents. And what if it fails? And then like, what if I lose my health? Yes, there are a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of factors. There are a lot of things that could go wrong. I like to say, what if it works?
Mm-hmm.
it's because we can spiral down to what if it doesn't work? And that's super easy. We know, if it don't work, and now I'm homeless. Like we know the end. But what if it does work? What if it does work? What if it does work? And I'm not telling you to be reckless, but I am telling you to take risks. I am telling you to take risks because as you go, your answers will be provided for you. I have seen it. I have experienced it. I have lived it. Things that even with Insecure, when I was so sure I should be popping right now, I was darn near cussing Jesus out on Sunset Boulevard. Like, fam, you can take these dreams because they feel like nightmares. I don't want any parts of this. Like, I'm gonna go back to Lower Maryland, where I know my parents got a house, and this is a wrap. And when I thought I should have made it, there was a young lady named Issa Rae starting to develop a show that wasn't in existence yet. So as ready as I thought I was, the opportunity that was going to be my breakthrough wasn't ready yet. And it was only when I focused in on what God told me to do, which was to make the trailer for First Gen, which ended up becoming my audition tape, if you will, because I was a no credit having actress with no agent. And so it was like, even if Issa did have a show, who was gonna hire me? Like, I didn't have anything to show for being on her show. And so it was at the point to which I was like, well, here's what I'm gonna do. Because I can't predict when someone's gonna offer me something, but I am gonna create something for myself. And if it don't work out after this, then I'm checking up the deuces and y'all can kick rocks. And it was creating that sizzle that eventually went viral, that caught the attention of David, that caught the attention of Oprah, that then, that also caught the attention of Issa. And so when I do go to audition and all the producers are like, why should this very green actress be on a HBO show? This is premium. Like, we need somebody like with chops. And it's like, well, look at what she did. That, she directed it, she wrote it, she started it, she's funny. So then that's enough to be like, all right, well, let's give her a chance. Let's give her a chance. And you get me in the door, baby. That's all the chance I need. 5 auditions later, now I'm Molly and no one can unsee me in the role. But back then, it was really easy to not see me in the role at all. And so it's like, you take the risks, you take the fear, you take you have no idea who is waiting for your supply. Mm-hmm. Someone is waiting for something they don't even know they need. And you're the one that has the thing that they are not even sure that they need it right now until they see it. And they're like, that's it. That's the thing. Oh my gosh, we've been looking for you. It's like, just when you wake up in the morning, just tell yourself, somebody's been looking for me.
Right. That is right. Okay, Yvonne, this is my final and really my favorite question. It's one that we ask of all of our Boss Talks guests. So Yvonne, what is your superpower?
My superpower, I want to say it's my positivity. And here's why. When I came out, and I even say it in the book, I'm like, I'm not the most talented. I'm not the funniest. I'm not the prettiest. There are a lot of things that I'm not. Now, I'm a lot of these things. I'm great. I'm good. I'm sassy, baby. But I know that, like, if you're looking for sexier, somebody exists that's sexier. If you're looking for more talented, someone exists that's more talented. But what I bring to the table is, you're not going to get anybody with my skill set that also cares about people, that also loves and is generous and is not jealous and will give 1,000% and is committed to creating an environment where everybody can come up. Like, all of those, that's my superpower. I wasn't on Insecure like, how do I become Issa Rae? It was like, all right, so I'm riding shotgun, girl, what you need? How can I serve you? Because one day I'm gonna be number one. And how I trick off this position or how I succeed in this position is how somebody will replicate that when I'm the boss. Right. So it's best for me to sow these seeds because the tree's gonna grow. And either it's gonna be a fruitful tree or it's gonna be a messed up tree. You know what I'm saying? I was like, it's another F word. I'm like, fruitful or effed up? Which one you want? And for me, I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware that like my time will always come. My skills are different. So we're not even, a lot of times people are like, they're trying to run somebody else's race. And it's like, that's not even, you don't even have shoes for that. That's not, you don't have the tools. Like, and a lot of times you're in the same industry. So you're just like, well, should I be writing? Should I create a show? Should I? And it's just like, nobody asked you to do any of that. When you're asking the should I, versus the, what can I do with what I have that feels right coming from me? That's the question. That's the question. And for me, that's where my joy lives and resides. Anytime I'm off with my positivity and off of my joy, I've lost sight of my gratitude. I've lost sight of what I'm actually supposed to be doing. And and so it's like, oh, maybe shut it down. Sorry, we got to reboot. My bad. I was gone for a minute, but I'm back now. So what are we doing and why? It's always the checking, what is your motive? And so for me, my superpower is to maintain my positivity. And it sounds like that's superpower. No, but it is.
It is.
But it is, because when people know you're not trying to be them, when people know you're not secretly trying to make covert moves, when people know you're just showing up happy, joyful with what you get to do and the position that you're in, it makes it more vulnerable. It takes down the walls of just like, who is against me? I don't know. I can't trust. And it's just like, oh, they're just cool. Hey, you want to do this thing with me? I think you'd be great. And it's like opportunities flow, because there is never a lack of opportunities for you when you are in your group.
Right.
Never a lack.
There's enough to go around for all of us, is what you're saying.
In the book, I talk about if you ever need inspiration, just go to the water aisle of your local grocery store. And I say that because when you go there, you see the Dasani. Somebody saw the Dasani and was like, that's cool, but we got Arrowhead, baby. And somebody saw Arrowhead and was like, yeah, but we got Fiji. One is spring, one is mountain. And then somebody was like, no, but we now have like, sparkling water. It's like, because, people need the buzz. And it's like, cool, but now we got sparkling water with flavor. It's like La Croix. Who knew La Croix was going to take off? What's the Perrier was killing the game.
For decades.
Nobody was touching Perrier. It was when you go to France, they give you Perrier. You go to a nice restaurant, they give you Perrier. Then La Croix was like, we don't even want glass bottles. We out here being aluminum cans and whatnot. And it was just like, and then everybody in Hollywood started drinking Perrier. Started drinking La Croix. And now it's like, we got coconut La Croix, we got pomegranate La Croix. And that was, it's popping. But La Croix never said, oh man, somebody came before me, get some trash, I don't have anything good to offer. They were like, no, we the sexy new kids on the block.
That's right.
We gonna do what we came to do. Now, Perrier is not also tripping like, should we be La Croix? No, boo, because we gonna be us. But what I'm saying is there is space enough on every shelf for every product. So if you want miniature bottles of water, you got it. If you want gallon water, you got it. If you want the water with a twist cap or the one that got the little sprout that you can squeeze out, you are enough. There is no lack of creativity and no lack of ideas. There's no lack of your supply. So just be the thing nobody knew they were checking for until you got on the scene.
That's right. Yvonne, positivity is definitely your superpower, your authenticity, your enoughness, your grit, your determination, the hustle, it all shines through so brightly on you. I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I love the stories you shared with us. And I really appreciate like how many tips, really amazing tips for how we can take control of being our own bosses. So it was such a pleasure to host you on Boss Talks. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I have. This has been so much fun. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And I think the last thing I will say is boss looks so different for different people. I think a lot of times when people hear boss, they're like, oh, I have to be boss of a Fortune 500 company, or I have to be boss at like the highest scale. And really it's like, be a boss where you at. If you're a boss of a company of two, be a boss of a company of two and enjoy that, because when you're a boss of a company of 50, it's different. And so I think it's really important for people to understand what boss means for them and being happy in that. So this was phenomenal. I'm glad I got a chance to talk with you. Girl, you pop it. I'm like, ooh, you cute. Like you cute. I was like, I need to get my lighting. Let me fix my lighting because you brightened up my day. Shoot.
Thank you so much. I know that everyone is going to enjoy seeing this and watching you. See you all. Bye.
Well, folks, we're nearing the end of the first ever Salesforce National Black Business Month Block Party. Today, we have enjoyed incredible music, great conversation, honest dialogue about business, culture, and the role of technology in the Black business community. Together, we wanted to inspire, celebrate, and create new pathways that would help accelerate Black entrepreneurs, business leaders, creatives, and innovators everywhere. I asked myself about a year ago, in the wake of the pandemic and the racial injustices that sparked civil unrest across the globe, what more can we be doing? At Salesforce, we are doubling down in our commitment to support Black-owned businesses and the community of entrepreneurs that make all the magic happen. As part of that journey, we knew that during National Black Business Month, we wanted to do something that truly spoke to the hearts and souls of Black America. We wanted to bring business, culture, and technology together in a way that would spark continued dialogue and innovation. From discussing topics such as the business of Black culture, tech and Black business, and the creation of pandemic-driven business innovations, not to mention our special edition Boss Talks with Yvonne Orji and Ebony Beckwith. Can we just take a moment for that incredible conversation? And you can only imagine the number of times I've heard my family refer to me as Issa in preparing a block party for the last few months. But what a powerful and inspiring dialogue that we heard from those ladies. This virtual block party experience has been really incredible and a great inspiration to all of us. There's so much power in authentically aligning our intentions in a way that amplifies Black talent while also addressing conversations to build Black wealth and cultivate economic empowerment. But we're not done yet, because what's a block party without a special music performance? Gia, I'll hand it back to you to introduce our next guest. And until next time, let's continue to support, build, and grow Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. Happy National Black Business Month, everyone.
Thank you, Shalaya. We're not done just yet. To close us out, Wale is going to give us an amazing performance as we continue to celebrate Black businesses all year long. I've been your host, Gia Peppers, and I had such a beautiful time today. Thank you so much to Salesforce for having me. And thank you to my sis, DJ Damo. We are signing off. Wale, take it away.
thank you, Gia, for the intro. You know, shout out to Salesforce and for this beautiful virtual block party. We've been through a lot. You know what I'm saying? But we want to highlight a lot of the black entrepreneurs, black businesses, and, you know, we root for everybody black. Let's get it. Yeah, yeah. Hey. We rest here real quick.
Lotus flower bomb, firefly. When I'm low, she take me high. I could teach you all the sounds of love.
Ooh. Flower bomb, let me get your favorite fragrance. You got that bomb, huh? I'm trying that in nature. No disrespecting, baby. Just try and make you smile. Try to keep my spirits up. That's why I lays it down. Try to keep your spirits up. Lil vodka, whatever. Took her forever. Took a dress, I acknowledge your effort. So I clap for her. She deserves an applause. Shawty working so hard. She deserves that baton. Shawty way over time. Racing through my mind like not that work. Heard that she been on strike. Here to tell, read your mind. She been on them dollars first. Caramel, macchiatos. When Shawty get in the work, I can be your boyfriend, be your a friend with perks. I'm just trying to work that. Ain't just trying to work your nerves. I'm just trying to read your mind. I'm just trying to feed you mine. I'm just trying to see if you gon' sing it one more time.
Fantasy, I feel it when you dance with me. It's feeling like you need to be my lady, my baby, yeah. Can't you see? I'm talking about eternity. Tell me would you care to be my lady, baby, yeah.
Flower bomb, can I blow up on your mind? It's not no Sandra Boo, but your potion number 9. Navigating through her eyes, destination to her thighs. Too much, let's stay with too much pride. And we way too young to know love. If we not, but we don't need no rush. I believe in love at first sight. I believe in love at first. Can I be with you just one night? I can wear you out inside. I can tell you like persist. So I make you. Let's go. I just think I need one night. Can't decide if I can. Easy, baby, my thing type, but that lotus flower just ain't right. I ain't thinking I ain't right. Easy, baby, you the bomb and all, but every damn about to not land mine. Please try, can I speak out? Can we eat lunch? Flat jokes without A cups. I just think I need one night. Slightly more if it's done right. That gorgeous face, I don't know your name, but I'ma call you.
Fantasy, I feel it when you dance with me. It's feeling like you need to be my lady, my baby, yeah.
Let's go.
Can't you see? I'm talking about eternity. Tell me would you care to be my lady, my baby? 'Cause I don't know you and you don't know me. The clock keeps ticking, baby. What's it gonna be? I don't know you and you don't know me. But I can teach you all the sounds of love. Baby, this is for you, Lotus.
Drop. DMV up, roll up and kick my feet up. Was for a ticket.